important challenge of your life. Have you seen the Aspirant series, the web series? Many of you must have seen that. So you must be knowing that UPSC is like a second toughest examination in the world. Okay, many of the people say that it is the toughest one also. So whatever may be the case, the examination that we are going to appear for or we are preparing for, so it was left for us by Britishers, and that is a part of history also. In modern history, we will study about ICS, which has become now the IAS, Indian Administrative Service, collectively known as the UPSC examination, because it is conducted by Union Public Service Commission, okay, which was established by British itself. Okay, that we will study in modern India. Many of you might be also preparing for OPSC also. That also came to be into being during the time of British period. So it is like a Herculean task whenever we prepare for such a kind of examination. And appearing for such a kind of examination itself needs a kind of a guts and a kind of a perseverance, determination, and a challenge. So I am happy to see all of you. All of you are comfortable with English? Or if anyone needs Hindi, you can tell me. I can go for Hindi also. And something I can learn from with respect to Odia also. Okay, I shall go bilingual. Okay, no issue. Yeah, no issue. Whenever there is a requirement of Hindi, you can tell me. Okay? Because in a flow I can go completely in English, but you can just interrupt me and you can tell me. Okay, but in return you will have to teach me Odia also. Correct? That's the deal. Okay. So coming with respect to Indian history, for UPSC basically we have to focus upon Indian history in three parts or three modules. First is the ancient Indian history, which also includes the art and culture. Second is the medieval Indian history, which also includes art and culture. And third is the modern India. Okay. Now, if you have seen the previous year questions trend before COVID or before Corona, the questions upon modern used to be on a higher side. But after Corona, gradually UPSC is switching more towards the questions upon ancient India plus art and culture. And the questions upon the medieval India, they were earlier also they were less, and even today they are less. Okay, so here we have to give justice to all the subjects. We are not here just to study history. We have to study the Indian polity also. We have to study the Indian economy also. We have to study the environment also. We have to study science and technology also. We have to go through current affairs also. Okay, all the subject we have to give justice, and for that purpose we have to study the history from the perspective of the UPSC. Okay, we are not going to get any degree as such after studying the examination. So just for cracking the examination, be it a prelims or be it a mains, the kind of a history which is required, the kind of a preparation which is required, in that flow only we have to go. So accordingly we have to just go on to have our orientation as well as our outlook and our the kind of a devotion toward history. If you just take a look at the history from UPSC perspective, then in a prelims on an average 15 questions are asked about the Indian history. Total 100 questions are there for prelims, everyone must be knowing. Okay, out of the 100 questions, more and less every year on an average 15 questions are asked upon the history. In a main examination also we have 4 GS papers, right? In a GS paper 1 we have the Indian history, Indian society and Indian geography. In that also we have total 250 marks for GS1 and each GS. Okay, out of 250 marks of the GS also in the main examination, around 90 to 100 marks they are asked only upon the Indian history, and that's why Indian history becomes very, very important from the perspective of the UPSC. So accordingly our focus has to be there. While you are self-study also, you have to go on devoting your time as well as your efforts for history in that manner. So in that 15 questions which are asked normally in examination, as I mentioned earlier, 8 to 10 questions they used to be asked upon modern India. But after COVID, if you see, the pattern is changing. Hardly 2 or 3 questions are there upon modern India, and maximum questions now 8 to 10 questions they are being asked upon ancient Indian history plus art and culture. And one thing we have to keep in mind, we cannot study the art and culture separately. Many a times aspirant they make a serious blunder. They go on to study the art and culture as a separate subject. It is not a separate subject. It is associated with the history only. Whatever events happen in Indian history, according to that events, according to the dynasty which came, according to the civilization which came, something in the form of art and culture was witnessed. Okay, so that's why basically our focus has to be that the way we will go on to study the each and every era of the Indian history in same pattern and in same flow and in the same manner, we have to go for studying the art and culture. Clear है पूरा? कोई doubt नहीं ना? Those who are online, am I audible? We will keep the session interactive. Okay? तो जो online होंगे ना, they also can ask the doubts. So this is the case. And the journey of the Indian history, obviously it will go chronologically. Because why we are studying the history for UPSC? Because after clearing the UPSC or even OPSC, you are going to handle Odisha if you are in OPSC, and you have to be posted in at all India level basically if you are in a UPSC. And you are going to run the country, and for that you should have the idea, fair bit of idea. You should have the fundamentals of the Indian history and the culture very clear. Why? In whichever state you might be posted, which is called as a cadre, you should have the clear idea, the kind of a history that state or area had. Because the district in which you will be posted, if you are knowing about the history of that area, if that district, if that region and so on, then you will be able to handle the problem of the people in a better manner. So for that purpose, the UPSC has given Indian history as a major segment. And a second reason why we have to study, especially our current generation, because until and unless we study our past, we will not be able to make our present better. And if we don't make our present better, then our future will remain bleak. And that's why to make our future better, for future generations, history is always necessary. And India has a beautiful history. Okay? Normally it happens that in a school days, people get bored about history. People think that there are so many facts. Okay? And how we can remember so many facts and all these things. But for UPSC, history is not factual. UPSC is more and less conceptual. UPSC is more and less analytical. UPSC is interested more in why, how, what, and the cause and effect relationship rather than just mugging up the fact. Going for a rote learning that is not expected for any subject of the UPSC and definitely not for the history. That single, we can say, the kind of equation you have to keep in mind, the single rule you have to keep in mind. You just have to go for the study of the history from the perspective of a story, but through that story concept you have to understand the very summary, the very essence of the history. And this is where the UPSC asks the question. Okay? And now we are studying the history chronologically. So obviously we have to start it from ancient Indian history. And if you see the ancient Indian history, then we have to study the very first important topic that is known as the Indus Valley civilization. Okay? Because Indus Valley civilization doesn't just mark the start of Indian history as such, but it is also one of the oldest civilizations of the world. Okay? And the second thing is that whenever we study history, so when we say history, what is exactly the meaning of the history? So history is a critical analysis of the fact. Okay? And the second thing is that time frame which is called as history is one when you have a written writing and a written record. Okay? And even though Indus Valley is studied now as a part of history, the way we are going to study, practically Indus Valley is not called as a history. Indian history is divided into three parts. One is called as a prehistory, one is called as a proto-history, and then comes the history. So prehistory will start right from the time when the humans basically as a species started emerging. The way we have studied from school days, the Homo sapiens that we are, from Ethiopia or the Horn of Africa, the cradle of a civilization, from where basically the humans spread throughout the world. And now different races, sub-races, ethnicities are there. Especially any one of you, if you have anthropology as optional, then you must be knowing the things in a detail. Okay, so that is the era of a prehistory. Because in prehistory, why it is called prehistory? Because there is no writing, there is no written record, and there is no even oral record. Verbal communication was also absent. Okay, and when you come to proto-history, where the Indus Valley civilization would be there, we will find that there is a writing, but that was not deciphered. There are so many evidences that we can find, and based on the material evidences only, we can have some kind of a logical reconstruction of the time or a era which was bygone. and IVC normally goes back to 5000 or 5500 years ago. So we have the writing. If you are going through the current affairs and newspapers, you must have read that there is now a prize of $1 million, which has been put by the Tamil Nadu government just for deciphering the Indus Valley civilization script. Why? Because last year we completed 100 years of the discovery of the IVC, okay, which was announced to the world. IVC was discovered in 1922. But it was only in 1924 it was officially announced to the world that we have found such a kind of civilization, and at that time the British were ruling. So IVC has a script, and other great civilizations like Mesopotamia, which is called as Iraq today, that is known as the oldest ancient civilization of the world. Its writing has been deciphered. Okay, Mesopotamia's writing is known as cuneiform script. Just we have to listen, we have to just let it go, because we are not going to study Mesopotamia. After Mesopotamia came the Egypt. The script of the Egypt is known as heliograph script. Okay, that has also been deciphered. So the writings of both great civilization, they have been deciphered. After Egypt came Indus Valley civilization, and after our civilization came Chinese civilization. So for Chinese civilization also the script has been deciphered. Only we are the one, even after exactly a century, there have been number of attempts to decipher the script, but unfortunately there is no success. So whatever we are going to study from the exam perspective, everything is based upon the archaeological evidences, okay, with respect to Indus Valley. And that's why IVC is called as a proto-historic period. The writing is there, it is in front of us, but we are not urbanized. IVC was also urbanized. Chinese civilization was also urbanized. But the way IVC was urbanized, none of the three civilizations were urbanized. We were the most sophisticated urbanization. And that's why when we will start discussing, first we will focus upon town planning features, for which IVC is famous. And then based upon town planning features, we will discuss the society and religion as a part of art and culture in a limited way. And then there are some specimens of that art and culture, like you must be knowing about bronze dancing girl of the Indus Valley. We will have the image also. That dancing girl statue is there, which is known as the oldest bronze statue of the world ever found. So that is also the part of IVC art and culture. We have some seals also, apart due to which we get some kind of information, meaningful information about the Indus Valley civilization. And this is where the UPSC normally focuses upon. But the point is that if you go through previous year questions, 2011 UPSC changed the syllabus for the whole examination. Okay, for prelims the pattern was changed in 2011, and for mains the syllabus and the pattern was changed in 2013. So if you just go through the PYQs, then you will get the idea that IVC was a focus in 2011, 2012, 13 and 14. Okay, after 2014, Indus Valley civilization, even though it is very important, it has lost the focus from the perspective of the UPSC. Okay, so we are going to study IVC, but not in a very detailed manner, but the way UPSC is expecting from us. Because here we have to keep changing ourselves. Whatever topics UPSC will like to study from us at a higher level, accordingly we will go there. Okay, so we will study IVC, but depending upon the current trend of the UPSC. For last 7 to 8 years, definitely UPSC is not preferring the Indus Valley civilization. But that doesn't mean UPSC will not come back. At any point of time, it can again start asking the questions upon the Indus Valley civilizations. Okay? So depending upon that only, we will start the discussion. And I will just cover the previous year questions also, which have been asked by UPSC. So you will get the idea how exactly basically the questions have been asked. Is it okay? So now, as I mentioned, that when we start this proto-historic period from Indian perspective, so normally around 7000 BC in India, one age was witnessed, the last age of a prehistoric period known as Neolithic age. Okay, and Mehergarh was a very famous site currently in Balochistan province of the Pakistan. Okay, and nowadays Balochistan is also in news for different reasons. So that Mehergarh is known as the oldest site of a Neolithic period in South Asia. Okay, and from there you will start the journey of a Indus Valley civilization started. So Indus Valley civilization normally came up in a northwestern part of India. Okay, and in this northwestern part of India, basically, this Mehergarh as a site was located. And from that Mehergarh, basically, gradually, the civilizational, we can say, foundation and the civilizational developments were witnessed. And from around 5,500 years ago, or from roughly 3,500 years before Christ, we will find the earliest cities and the earliest, basically, evidences of the Indus Valley civilization started emerging. And Indus Valley civilization, normally, if you see the time frame, 3,500 BC till 1500 BC. This is a long era in which we will find the IVC. For long 2000 years, we will find the IVC. And this IVC is divided into 4 different phases. Because 4 different phases had 4 different kinds of things that were witnessed. And in that, basically, we have to study the 3rd phase, the mature phase of the IVC, for which IVC is very famous. Okay. So first of all, I will go for a map of the IVC. So we will get the idea that where exactly the IVC was located, and then the stages and which stage we have to study. And in that stage also, what we have to study, that also we will see. Okay. In a relaxed way, one by one, we will go, and you will enjoy the whole session, and all the exam-oriented aspects also you will get covered. Clear? Okay, so total time span of the Indus Valley civilization would be 3500 BC till 1500 BC. Okay, according to some experts, it was 3300 BC till 1300 BC. We don't have to remember anything in the form of years. We just should know the sequence. Okay, no need to remember any dates, no need to remember any years, no need to remember any names as such. ओके, यूपीएससी में नाम को कभी याद नहीं रखना है, काम को याद रखना है, काम को, जिसका काम उसका नाम. अगर आपको किसी का काम पता है, इफ़ यू नो समवन्स अचीवमेंट्स, इफ if you know some a particular area's significance, then obviously you will remember the name. Okay, and when you go in that manner, history is not difficult, it is enjoyable. We normally try to mug up all the names, all the dates, all the years, the battles, and all these things, and we get confused. So we don't have to go anything as such. 4 stages are there, whether it's a 3500 BC to 1500 BC, or whether it's a 3300 BC to 1300 BC. 2000 years was the time span of the Indus Valley, and it was divided into 4 stages. In 4 stages also, only this stage we have to study for exam. We don't have to study the 3 other stages. This stage, when IVC will come to an end, I will tell about in a brief manner how IVC came to an end, what was the reason, and like that. Otherwise, the first 2 stages we don't have to study. Okay? Yes.
You said that from 7,000 years ago to that.
Approximately.
वही chronology थोड़ा idea के लिए थोड़ा बता दीजिए.
जो IVC का जो शुरुआत है ना, just like we have the pre-Harappan stage from 3500 BC. But even before the pre-Harappan stage, the rural settlements started coming up in this northwestern part of India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the Gujarat and Rajasthan border from around 7000 BC. So here is a site in Baluchistan province of the Pakistan. We have Mehergarh. So that is a Neolithic site. It is not a site of Indus Valley. So Mehergarh belongs to 7000 BC, and from there basically the foundation of the IVC started. Okay, and then by 3500 BC, the way we know the IVC in today's form, that started to be appear from archaeological evidence. Okay, now is it clear? So this is a pre-Harappan stage, the very first stage, the foundational stage of the IVC. Here you can note only one thing. It was completely a rural stage. It was completely a rural phase, that you can note. Because there was no urbanization. IVC is famous for what? Urbanization, na? But in this phase there is no urbanization. Just like today you might have seen that Bhubaneswar is expanding. There might be surrounding villages around Bhubaneswar. They might be taken into the municipal corporation area. Same is the case. Okay, so earlier basically completely village or a countryside was there. Here you don't have urbanization. Okay, only that thing you can note. This early Harappan stage, rural to urban transition. This is a stage when the rural areas were getting converted into small towns, and then the small towns will become the big cities. So here basically a basic urbanization started to be emerged. Correct? And then this is a full-fledged mature urbanization, which was most sophisticated anywhere in the world. That is a mature phase. And then just like our human cycle, we are a child, then we come into our twilight years, and then there is a death. So here also death and the decline and the death of IVC was witnessed after 2000 years. That is called late Harappan phase or a declining phase. The beautiful cities which were built by the people, our own ancestors, these cities basically got destroyed. The whole area lost these cities until and unless British rediscovered them almost after 5000 years. So why that happened, that also we have to study, just as a part of, we can say, summary or in a very summarized way in a late Harappan phase. And that's why I said 90 to 95% for exam purpose, only these things we have to study. Only 4-5% this one. And this is only one-liners, pre-Harappan phase, completely rural, early Harappan phase, transition. That's it. Done? Now shall I go for a different map? Because if you see the trend of UPSC after COVID, UPSC is asking the questions based upon maps. Maps we normally use for geography, but history is always determined by geography. That point we have to keep in mind. Odisha or Kalinga has a beautiful history. Correct? You might be knowing everything. Shishupalgarh, everyone knows. 61 BC already the Kalinga war is there. Yeah, I've heard the name Magad, no? but the Bihar and the identity. And then Shishupalgarh is one of the earliest site of a Kalinga identity. And then Shishupalgarh is one of the earliest site of a Kalinga that has been excavated by Archaeological Survey of India in an excellent manner. The Kalinga war will come in times of Ashoka, at least 250 or 300 years after the birth or origin of Shishupalgarh. Before that also, the Kalinga has an excellent history. That part we have to just keep in mind. Just for a reference, I mentioned. So these aspects now you will get from maps. And if you have that Orient Black Swan map or Oxford map, there also you will have the maps of the history also, apart from geography. So each era, IVC map is also there, but that is very restricted. In 100 years, IVC has increased a lot because so many sites are found even outside the main area of the IVC. So that is the case, and that's why I will go for a second. Okay, these are the 4 different coordinates of the IVC. The northernmost site of the IVC, the southernmost site of the IVC, westernmost site of the IVC, and easternmost site of the IVC. And there is one site which is known as a northernmost outpost of the IVC. So that also we should know, because at least one question has been asked by UPSC from these sites. Okay, so that we should know. So we can find Manda in Jammu and Kashmir is the northernmost site of the Indus Valley civilization. Okay, beyond this site, as of now, no evidence of the IVC has been found archaeologically. Correct? That's why it is a northernmost site. Then if you come to Uttar Pradesh, Alamgirpur, it's the easternmost site of the Indus Valley civilization. Okay? Then if you come to Iran-Pakistan border, which is known as Makran Coast, then we will have a site Sutka Jendor. Okay? That is the westernmost site of the Indus Valley. And finally, if you come to northern Maharashtra, there is a site called Daimabad. It is the southernmost site of Indus Valley. It lies in northern Maharashtra, but it's the southernmost site of the Indus Valley. Beyond Daimabad, till we can say Kanyakumari, nothing has been found with respect to IVC. Correct? Clear? Now in 2019, UPSC asked one question regarding the IVC site. Okay. In 2019, UPSC has asked one question. Desalpur, it lies in Kutch and Pakistan's Sindh province. That border is there, and we have the site of Desalpur. That question was asked by UPSC in 2019. Okay, and this is not a very well-known site, a kind of a offbeat site, but has been asked by UPSC. Correct? So at least one question has been asked by UPSC based upon the site of the Indus Valley. Now there are many more important sites. I will go for a different map. Because if I start drawing in a single map, I can understand. He will not be able to understand. So I will go in different maps. Okay. These are just 4 coordinates. They also have their own importance. I will tell you separately. यहाँ लिखूंगा फिर से वो कंफ्यूज हो जाएंगे. इनके भी अपने कुछ सिग्निफिकेंस है. दैट्स व्हाई आई टोल्ड ना, नाम नहीं याद रखना है, काम याद रखना है. काम. Something specific has been found in this site, okay, or the site like this one, Manda. So that's why there are the names which we can find. So one by one I will tell you. If it is done, shall I go for next one? Next map. And even you can directly take a photo also. Instead of drawing the map every time, you can just take a photo. That is also okay. Okay, now one by one I will tell what is the case, because these are the sites for which there is a significance. So here in a Pakistani Punjab we have the site Harappa, and Harappa is the first site of the Indus Valley civilization to be discovered in 1921, and that's why Indus Valley civilization is also called as a Harappan civilization, because many a time UPSC gives Harappan civilization, it doesn't give Indus Valley. Okay, so both are same, that we have to keep in mind, and already UPSC has asked like that civilization. There are so many controversies with regards to IVC. Why? It's such as a long era, and there is no writing that we can read meaningfully. We have the writing, but we cannot decipher it. So there are so much opinions, controversies, differences, and so on. We don't have to go into that. But what is an established fact without any controversy is that Mohenjo-daro is the capital of the IVC. Okay? Correct? Then if you come to Harappa lies in Pakistani Punjab. Because after partition of India, Punjab also got partition. So the West Punjab is now Pakistani Punjab, and East Punjab is our Punjab. So if the Harappa lies in Pakistani Punjab, Ropar is a site which lies in Indian Punjab. Ropar is a site of the IVC which lies in our Punjab, Indian Punjab. And what is the significance of Ropar? It is the only site of IVC where the dog has been buried along with the human, because IVC is famous for different types of burials. Sometimes we find the dead bodies which were buried, some bodies were cremated, some bodies were thrown in water also, like that. So one of the burials basically we find, as we know that dog is known as the best, we can say, friend as far as the humans are concerned. So here there is the only evidence of a dog burial along with human burial. Where? Ropar. That's why काम याद रहेगा, नाम अपने आप ध्यान में आएगा. रोपार रोपार करने की, रोपार नाम के जप करने की जरूरत नहीं. अपने आप रोपार will be known to you, and same applies to each and every site. Then in Rajasthan we have the site known as Kalibangan, the black bangles. It was a bangle manufacturing center of the Indus Valley. Yes, IVC was very famous for trade and commerce. And even if you see today, the people in the areas like Gujarat and Rajasthan, they are famous for business. Okay? And those who are in a Sindh province of Pakistan, whom we call as the Sindhis, they are also famous for business. Why? Genes of the IVC, still they are being carried after 5,000 years. So this is the case. So IVC was very famous for trade and commerce with Egypt and Mesopotamia. So the bangles used to be exported from India to Egypt and Mesopotamia. And Kalibangan is the site where we have the bangle manufacturing. But more than bangle manufacturing, why Kalibangan is famous? Kalibangan is famous for earliest fire altars of the world. I hope everyone understands what is a fire altar. यज्ञ वेदी, as we say, जब हम होम हवन पूजा करते हैं तो जो आपका ये रहता है the triangular shape, basically the timber basically structure that we have, and the structure of any material that we call as a fire altar. That earliest fire altar, which goes back to at least 5,000 years, that has been found from Kali Bangan. Then there is a site in Ran of Kutch, Gujarat, Dholavira, and in 2021, UNESCO included Dholavira in a World Heritage Site. And immediately UPSC asked a question in that year's prelims. And the question what was asked? Where we find the oldest hydraulic and water management structures of the world, not just IVC. पूरे दुनिया के सबसे पुराने water management, rain water harvesting and hydraulic engineering structures, where they are found? Dholavira. Okay. So whenever some site is in current affairs, as you go through newspapers, chances are high UPSC will ask it. Not necessarily every site UPSC is going to ask, but there are chances if something is significant, then if it is the site is in news, then UPSC can also ask it. Okay. Then again in Gujarat, here this area of the Gujarat is called Saurashtra region. This is Kutch region of the Gujarat. This is Saurashtra region of Gujarat. There is a site called Surkot Da. Okay, this is a site where doubtful remains of the horse bones have been found, but they are not the bones of a true horse the way we find today. So basically the specialists and experts, they are of the view, the scholars are of the view that they are the bones of a doubtful remains of the horse. They are probably the bones of an ass or a mule, the kind of a hybrid. That is a hybrid of a, we can say, donkey and a horse. So because of that, basically this aspect is also very important from the perspective of Surkot Da. Okay, because this is also the question which is normally asked more and less. Then again, just in Gujarat, on a southern coast of Gujarat, Gulf of Cambay is there, and here is a site known as Lothal. And Lothal, everyone might know that in budget also, last year's budget, our finance minister announced that there would be a museum in Lothal, showcasing the whole Indus Valley, and separate budgetary provision was made as far as the government was concerned. But UPSC has not asked a question upon Lothal, but we should know. Oldest dockyard or a port of the world, oldest dockyard or a port of the world, we will find in Lothal. And Lothal, you should also note, it is known as the oldest ship building center of the world. Indus Valley people, they were the earliest people to build the ships. Egypt and Mesopotamia, they could not build the ships. They learned the technique of building ships from Indus Valley. Okay, because our ships have been found on the coast of Egypt and Mesopotamia. And at Lothal also, shipbuilding centers have been found. Lothal was a shipyard, that you should note. It's the oldest port and a dockyard also, and its oldest shipbuilding center also. Okay. Then just in an earlier slide also we saw Daimabad. Why we saw Daimabad in earlier slide?
Southernmost part of
It is the southernmost site of the IVC. But the site has a significance. Why? The earliest chariot of the world. Chariot means the Rath, as we say. And that is the chariot made of a bronze, you should note. Earliest chariot, that means the bronze chariot. The earliest bronze chariot in the world has been found from Daimabad, and it belongs to 1500 BC, when IVC was just about to end. Okay? And normally in Ramayana or Mahabharata, what we see, chariot is driven by whom? Chariot को खींचता कौन है? घोड़ा, horse. This is a chariot driven by bull or ox. You should write. This is not a chariot driven by, we can say, horse, because horse was not known to the people of IVC. Okay? Horse basically was introduced in India by the people known as Aryans, the Vedic people. This is asked by UPSC in 2017. That horse was known to the people of IVC. Statement was wrong. They did not know the horse. ठीक है. The oldest chariot we will find that is made of bronze and that is driven by bull or ox. ठीक है.
लोकल में जो डाउटफुल हॉर्स का रिवील
लोथल नहीं, सुरकोड्डा.
उस बेसिस पे तो हो सकता है ना.
No, that is not a doubtful. The bones have been not identified with true horse. That's why they are not saying true horse. They are using the word doubtful. They are the bones which is supposed to be like a horse, but we cannot establish fully by skeleton testing or DNA testing that is a horse. That's why. Okay, clear? So this is the case. So in that way, basically, UPSC will be asking you the questions. Now, when we had the discovery of the Harappa in 1921, one more thing you can write about Harappa. Harappa is located on, because this is also a new trend of UPSC, linking geography with history. So in 2021, UPSC had asked one question. Ajanta, everyone knows the Ajanta caves. It is located in the valley of which river? Simple factual question was asked by UPSC in 2021. And 99% aspirants, they could not. Because everyone knows about Ajanta, paintings and all these things. But कौन से river के बाजू में है ये पता नहीं था. So even those who were from Maharashtra, they did not know that in the valley of which river it was there. It was in the valley of Wagora. Okay, that we will see later on when Ajanta comes. So similarly, what UPSC can ask here, Harappa is located on the left bank of river Ravi. You should know the bank also, left or right. Then you will be right. Harappa is located on the left bank of river Ravi. Ravi is a river. Ravi is a tributary of Indus. Jhalam, Chenab, Ravi, Satluj, Bias, we know. So on the left bank of river Ravi, Harappa is located. Okay. And then again there is a chance of a question which will be asked by UPSC. Why? Because as I mentioned, last year 1924 the officially IVC was declared to the world. So last year there was a centenary, 100 years were completed, correct? So Tamil Nadu government has erected one statue of a John Marshall, who was responsible for this very discovery of Indus Valley civilization, correct? So there is a expected question by UPSC upon John Marshall also. But what is the point? We have to keep in mind that in many books you are going to find a wrong fact that John Marshall discovered Harappa. No. John Marshall was leading the team of expert Indian archaeologists who discovered Harappa. So the Harappa has been discovered by two Indian archaeologists. First is Dayaram Sahani and second is Madhupo Swarup Vats, M.S. Vats. Okay, John Marshall is not a discoverer. He was leading the expedition, and UPSC will confuse you. Shall I change the slide? Sorry, I am writing. For that only I change the slide. Okay, so it was Dayaram Sahani and Madhupo Swarup Vats who basically discovered Harappa. And John Marshall, he was just leading an expedition. correct? And who was John Marshall at the time? He was at that time when Harappa was discovered, he was the Director General of Archaeological Survey of India. So these things might be asked by UPSC this year, because last year 100 years were completed for official discovery of Harappa. That means the announcement which came. And a statue of John Marshall, which has been erected by Tamil Nadu government. Okay. Yeah, I'm coming to that. It's good that you know it. Okay. So once Harappa was discovered by the Aram Sahani and Madhupo Sarup Watts, and Harappa is located on the banks of river Ravi. And which bank? Left bank. Then the British government, it was happy with the discovery. So next year again, the funding was given by British government, and in 1922, Mohenjo-daro was discovered by one more Indian archaeologist, Rakhal Das Banerjee. You should note. Is it over? Okay. So Mohenjo-daro was discovered by whom? One more Indian archaeologist, Rakhal Das Banerjee, also known as Rakhwal Das Banerjee. Okay. At that time also, John Marshall was leading the expedition. At that time also, John Marshall was the Director General of ASI. But if the Harappa is located on the left bank of river Ravi, then Mohenjo-daro is located on the right bank of the river Indus. That we should know. Okay? And till recently, Mohenjo-daro was considered as the largest site of the Indus Valley. But now, there is one more IVC site in Haryana, Rakhi Gadi. And Rakhi Gadi is now even bigger than Indus Valley. Sorry, Rakhi Gadi is now even bigger than Mohenjo-daro. So now the Rakhi Gadi is the largest site of the Indus Valley. Mohenjo-daro is the second largest site of the Indus Valley. Right? That point we have to keep in mind. Okay? Capital is Mohenjo-daro only. Area doesn't matter. The kind of buildings which have been found from Mohenjo-daro, they are like a seat of power. That we don't find in Rakhi Gadi. Okay? Correct? But when we are saying that IVC was discovered with the discovery of Harappa as well as Mohenjo-daro, we also saw the names. But when exactly the first ever evidences of the IVC were found? So I will just write that. Is it over? Okay, so if you see the first ever person who came into contact with the IVC ruins, then his name is Sir Charles Mason. 27. He was the first one, that is Charles Mason, first person in the world, and obviously the first European as well as first Englishman who saw the bricks of IVC. Okay, IVC के bricks देखने वाला अगर पहला कोई है तो वो कौन है? Sir Charles Mason है. That part we have to keep in mind. Okay, but he saw only bricks, not the full building as such. Then who is the first one to see the whole building? Alexander Cunningham. And 2023 UPSC has asked the question about him. In 1854-55, Alexander Cunningham was the first Englishman or a European and also the first person in the world who actually saw the remains of a IVC building. एक जो proper building होती है, that was seen by Alexander Cunningham. And then he decided to establish Archaeological Survey of India. So ASI, there is an Archaeological Survey of India, has been established by whom? Sir Alexander Cunningham, and he himself became the first Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India in 1861. Okay, so that is also very important. Clear? Shall I go next? Now we can come towards town planning features of the Indus Valley, the very sophisticated urbanization. And these features They are asked both in prelims also and they are asked in the mains also. Okay, so we will see that. I will go for a flow chart, then we will discuss. Okay, so we can easily find the features of the town planning at the IBC. Like if you see the layout of the city, like Bhubaneswar, after independence Bhubaneswar has been built. Chandigarh, Gandhinagar and Bhubaneswar. They are known as the most well-planned cities of India after independence. So all these three cities, they have been built upon IVC town planning only. In many areas of the Bhubaneswar also, where all of you must be residing, same town planning, the way IVC had, that kind of a town planning is found. Okay. So overall, if you see the layout of the city, it was rectangular or a square. The city will get divided into blocks and sectors, and the concept of block and sector we follow even today. Okay. The square or a rectangular layout was very common, and roads used to cut each other at right angles. One road will be from north to south, one will be from east to west, and when they will be meeting at the intersection, 90-degree angle or a right angle would be created. That is called as a grid pattern. And then whatever block or a sector would be there, houses would be formed. Correct? Then when city had this layout, square or rectangular, city was divided inside into two divisions. Within that square or a rectangular layout, inside the city would be divided into two parts. Upper part, the part on elevation, and then the part on the ground or the surface. The elevated part was known as citadel. The elevated part was called upper town or a citadel. Okay? And then the area which is directly upon the surface, that is known as lower town. करेक्ट. अभी इसमें एक एक्सेप्शन लिखिए, because there are so many exceptions. All cities of the IVC, they were having citadel and lower town. But in map also we have written there is one city, Chaun Hodaro, in Sindh province of Pakistan. It doesn't have a citadel. It only has a lower town. You should note again. Chaun Hodaro is a IVC city which doesn't have citadel or a upper town. It only has lower town. Okay? Now this is a fact, but UPSC is interested more in why. The reason is that when we have the division of the city in citadel and lower town, it is not just a structural or a town planning division. It's a functional division. It's a societal division of the city. Okay? Just like here we have high income group colony, low income group colony, middle income group colony. So LIG, MIG, HIG, same. Citadel was that area of the city where the rich and the super rich or the elite classes used to stay. Now you will ask, sir, how we can know? उनका तो स्क्रिप्ट हमको पता ही नहीं है, हमारे सामने हम पढ़ नहीं सकते, हम कैसे बोल सकते हैं? The very structures of the houses, the spaciousness of the houses, the material which was used for building the houses in citadel is different from lower town. In citadel, we have less houses, but they are more spacious. Okay? We have more broader roads as far as citadel is concerned. In lower town, we have higher number of the houses, but they are small, they are compact. The material, it is good, but not the way we can find in citadel. So it's all about quality versus quantity. That shows the kind of a social division, social differentiation, okay, as far as the Indus Valley is concerned, correct? And that also shows the functional division. Citadel was the area, as someone asked, no, that why the Mohenjo-daro, if it is not a second, it is not the largest city now, then Rakhigarhi should be the capital. It is not so. Why? Because in citadel, every city of the area of the citadel, in every city, we will find that the powerful elite class used to be there, and these were the areas from where the administration used to be carried upon. These were the seats of power. These were the seats of the government as far as the city was concerned. Okay? And lower town, you will find workers' quarters. In lower town, you find peasants' quarters. you don't find a single city of the IBC in these 100 years of discovery where you have a workers or a peasants quarter in a citadel. No. Workers and a peasants quarters always you find in lower town. And in Chavanhodaro, you find only that. Peasant and a workers quarters. And there is complete absence of a citadel. Okay? So Chavanhodaro was a manufacturing hub, just like Kalibangan. So because the workers, Chavanhodaro was famous for seal making, bead making. Okay? And for that purpose, it was a manufacturing hub. So for the manufacturing purpose, only workers will be staying there. Okay? And the kind of a manufacturing which used to go there, the raw material used to be supplied from agriculture. So for that purpose, the cultivator class was also there. But in Chavanhodaro, you don't have a ruling class. And that's why citadel was absent in Chavanhodaro. That we should keep in mind. So why is also very important. Okay? So this shows a functional division. And then you will see citadel was always in the west and it would face east. Lower town would be in the east, but it would be facing west. So somewhere the elite class, it wanted the very, what we can say, they used to start their day with as auspicious, we can say, the offerings to the sun god. Based upon the dawn and the dusk, the offerings to the sun god were very important. And based upon that, they wanted to see the sunrise, and then they will start their day. And then the lower town, the common people, they would be looking at sunset. This is a kind of, we can say, interpretation we get to see. Because there is not a single city where it's a vice versa. That lower town is in west and citadel is in east. Not a single city is there as of now. अगर आगे ऐसा कुछ हुआ तो हिस्ट्री बदल सकती है. तब तक हमें यूपीएससी निकाल के जाना है. ठीक है? We don't have to create the history. We just have to go with the history. So as of now, there is not a single city where citadel lies in the east. All the cities as of now are citadel is having in the west only, and lower town lies in the east only. Even if you see today our capital, New Delhi, it is exactly built in the same way. New Delhi was built between 1912 to 1927 by two British architects and civil engineers, Sir Edward Lytton and Herbert Baker. Okay? And today what we call as a Raisina Hill, where you have Rashtrapati Bhavan, which used to be the Viceroy's palace earlier. Rashtrapati Bhavan is a citadel, where that hill is a kind of citadel. And India Gate is the lower town, the surface. And then there is a path, Kartavya Path, earlier used to be called as Rajpath. So it has exactly been built upon the Indus Valley planning, east-west. And these so-called the roads which used to cut each other at right angles, the road which was there from east to west or west to east, that was based upon astronomical observation. Today in Indian astrology, because in India astrology and astronomy gets very confused. They are like two sides of the same coin, but they get confused. So we have 27, we can say, nakshatras, okay, or constellations as we say. There is one nakshatra or constellation known as Kritika. And that Kritika nakshatra or constellation, always it lies in east-west direction. So the Kartavya Path or Rajpath, which connects the Rashtrapati Bhavan and India Gate, has been built based upon Kritika nakshatra. And why it has been built by these two British civil engineers like that? Because IVC cities, they used to be built in a Kritika nakshatra direction. So first the east-west road was laid in each city. Then north-south road would be decided. And accordingly, city would be divided into great pattern. See? That also you should note. Because town planning also goes with science and technology. And science and technology is also art and culture. Okay? UPSC will ask science and technology question also in art and culture only. Note that. So the citadel and lower town, they were laid based upon the Kritika constellation direction, which was east to west. Okay? Shall I write the spelling of Kritika?
Yeah.
Kritika. 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 Okay. Names are not that important, but still I will give. All our MPs, ministers, they stay here in Lieutenant's Delhi. Delhi as a union territory, it has New Delhi, from where the central government is run. Rest of the Delhi lies in the hands of Delhi government, where now Rekha Gupta is the chief minister. Earlier, Arvind Kejriwal used to be the chief minister. Okay. So between 1912 to 1927, New Delhi was built, and it was thrown open for the public and even for the functioning in 1931. 27 में बिल्ड हो गया था, लेकिन 31 में शुरू हुआ था एक्चुअली न्यू दिल्ली का जो आपका वर्किंग है, फंक्शनिंग. एट दैट टाइम लॉर्ड आरविन वाज वाइसरॉय ऑफ इंडिया. In modern India, we will study Gandhi-Arvind Pact. Okay, so that is based upon the town planning of the IVC. Shall I come back to earlier slide? So again, what we will see, that in IVC you find single-story houses, you find double-story houses, and even you can find multi-story houses, correct? The way we have even today. So that kind of, we can say, the remains we have found, that kind of foundations we have found. Not necessarily every time you should have a building. Based on foundation also you will get idea how many floors the so-called house must have been. So that is also the case. Then, and as I was saying, that we have two-fold division of the city in all cities, but exception is there. One is Chavanadara. Second, Dholavira you should write. Dholavira is the only city of Indus Valley where threefold division is found. Okay? Dholavira is the only IVC city as of now. Up tak, as of now, Dholavira is the only IVC city where threefold division is found. Okay? And threefold division means what? Citadel, the upper town, middle town, and then the lower town. Okay? And what is the meaning of this middle town? Middle town means in Dholavira there was a distinct middle class which used to stay, which was absent in other cities. Distinct is an important word because UPSC plays with words. शब्दों के साथ UPSC खेलती है. Definitely, certainly, distinct, unique. UPSC gives you a clue in a question only. Within question only there is an answer. If you are able to understand these keywords, then you are able to mark the question correctly. So distinct middle class was there in Dholavira. It doesn't mean middle class was absent in other cities. Middle class was more or less was present in Harappa also, Mohenjo-daro also, but not as a distinct feature of the city. That is available only in Dholavira. Okay? So only city of the IVC where threefold division is there, that is Dholavira. Then as I mentioned, every city had a grid pattern, correct? Exception is there. There is one city you should write, Banawali in Haryana. Banawali, Banawali, Banawali in Haryana. Where what you don't find a grid pattern, you will find radial pattern. I will show. So for two reasons we should know Banawali. First is that Banawali doesn't have grid pattern. Okay, Banawali has radial pattern from a city center or from circle. Okay, the roads will be going in a different directions, just like sun rays. And IVC is famous for underground drainage system. But still, Banawali is the only city of IVC till now or as of now which has open drainage. Okay? Even during mature phase, where the drains used to be closed, whenever we have underground drainage means what? Drains are closed, no? So Banawali used to have open drains. So these are the areas from where UPSC will be asking questions. And this is the way you should study. In UPSC, you should know what not to study. Then obviously you will get the idea what to study. बैट्समैन बनना है, बैट्समैन कौन सी बॉल को चौका मारना है, कौन सी बॉल को छोड़ना है, ये पता होना चाहिए. मजा आ रहा है? You will enjoy more. ये दिल मांगे more. Okay, so this is also the part of town planning features only. Then again in town planning features I have mentioned each city used to be fortified and some cities had a double fortification. Example is Dholavira. Dholavira has a double fortification. You should write. Okay, normally almost all the cities have a single fortification, but Dholavira is a city which has double fortification. And why this fortification was there? First of all, to keep the city safe from any kind of external attack. And second, like city like Dholavira. Today Dholavira lies in Run of Kutch. But earlier the Arabian Sea used to come into the Run of Kutch. Okay? And there was a river called Saraswati. It directly used to pour into Run of Kutch. Saraswati, that normally is found in Mahabharata and earlier period. In Vedic period also, after this we will study Vedic period. In Rig Veda there is a mention of the river Saraswati. And Saraswati was like a cousin of river Indus. Indus, even today we have Indus. Okay? But Saraswati is no more. We can find a dry bed of the Saraswati which gets filled up only during monsoon for some days and then it will go dry again. It is called Ghaggar Hakra. In those times it used to be like a mighty river like Amazon. It is said that its water volume was even more than Amazon. Yes, today you know that by length Nile is the longest river of the world, but by water volume Amazon is the largest. But even more than Amazon, Saraswati had a water, it is said. And what is called as the Run of Kutch was the delta of Saraswati. So from Run of Kutch basically Saraswati used to meet Arabian Sea. And Dholavira is located in that area. So always it was prone for floods. So for flooding purpose also, Dholavira was having extra fortification. You can have an external attack also or a kind of invasion, but there was a fear of a natural disaster in the form of floods. So for that you have double fortification. Okay, so that also from exam perspective you should know. The UPSC will ask you. So this is a very important aspect with respect to town planning feature. As I mentioned, underground drainage system is a most unique feature of the town planning. Because even Egypt and Mesopotamia, during their flourishing days, they did not have underground drainage system. They learned the underground drainage from IVC and then their cities can have underground drainage. उनके यहाँ underground drainage दिखेगा आज आपको, उसके evidences. But they learned this technique from IVC. And that's why it was the most unique feature of the IVC as far as the mature phase was concerned. But despite having this most unique feature, even in mature phase, Banawali is the only site where you can find a open drainage. पढ़ते वक्त भी ऐसे ही पढ़ना है, सीक्वेंस के हिसाब से आराम से सेल्फ स्टडी में आपकी रिवीजन हो जाएगी. आपको फिर कुछ याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. ठीक? So this is the case. And then, so as I mentioned, the fortification also. And here what we have, you don't find any lime or a mortar as far as the binding of the houses was concerned. any wall or any kind of part of a building for binding purpose, for holding the bricks to lime or mortar was not used. चूना लगाने की आदत नहीं थी. हम लोग शरीफ है इंडियंस, ठीक. चूना बिना लगाना बाहर के लोगों की आदत थी. बिकॉज टर्क्स और दिल्ली सल्तनत पीपल दे ब्रॉट लाइम एंड मोर्टर इन इंडिया. ये मेडिवल का क्वेश्चन है, वो मेडिवल में पूछा जाएगा. वो लोग बाहर से आए थे, दे ब्रॉट लाइम एंड मोर्टर विद देम. सो उनकी नीयत वैसी थी, तो चूना लेके आए थे. ठीक, हम लोग शरीफ थे, हम लोग चूना लगाते नहीं थे. मड प्लास्टर वॉज यूज बाय द पीपल ऑफ इंडस वैली. ठीक है, फॉर बाइंडिंग द ब्रिक्स mud plaster was used. That part we have to keep in mind. And whenever when we talk about bricks, then we should keep in mind the foundation of the house was built of a stone, and the main building of the house was built of a bricks. Okay, but if you come to the drains, there is underground drainage. You have the stone also, and you have the bricks also. And especially for these underground drains, just like today we have manholes, in those times also we have found the manholes, and manholes were made of a stone. So underground drainage had a stone manholes, and inside the drains we will find the bricks. Okay, so wherever the bricks has been used, we should know specifically the bricks were both baked or burnt bricks also, and unbaked also. You should note that. So both baked as well as unbaked bricks were used for the purpose of housing or drainage purpose. Okay? And baked as well as burnt bricks, both are same. They were put to the fire. Okay? Baked or burnt bricks were also used. Unbaked or unburnt bricks were also used. UPSC will give only the baked bricks or burnt bricks were used in IVC for construction purpose. Statement is wrong. Both baked as well as unbaked or burnt or unburnt bricks were used for all kinds of construction purpose, whether it's a house or a drain or any kind of building, public building or etc. etc. Okay? Clear? So this is called as a town planning feature of the IVC. Correct? Shall I go ahead? Any break needed? If any break is needed, there is a specific. It means after 4:30. Okay, no issue. Oh, great. That's nice. Okay, no issue. Okay. Now we have to come towards, we can say, society and religion of the IVC. The next aspect upon which normally the questions are asked.
Sir, I have a question. So while the town planning, citadel and lower town is both there. And as you said that the town planning, the citadel and the lower town.
Citadel lies upon the elevation. Okay, and lower town lies on surface.
That means that does not mean कि geography का बहुत बड़ा factor role करता है.
That is what the case is that na. Today also with one rainfall we can have flooding as far as Bhubaneswar or any area of the country is concerned. In those times it wasn't the case because elevation was kept in mind. Accordingly, based upon the relief or physical features of the area, city was built. Like for example, Mohenjo-daro, which is the capital, it was built for 20,000 people at that time. It has been estimated by experts currently based upon the area, number of houses, the area of the particular house or public building, okay, space which was kept between the two houses and so on, the width of the road, the kind of length of the road. So it has been estimated for 20,000 people. And more or less, if currently based upon current aspects, we consider that 4 or 5 people were there. So at least 4 to 5,000 families they used to stay as far as the Mohenjo-daro was concerned. So they used to keep in mind or take into account beforehand how much people or how many families are going to reside there, and then only they will go for town planning. Today we have the city master plans, but even before the master plans comes into effect, if the master plan has 10 lakh people for which the city has to be built, when the plan comes into, we can say, application, city already has, we can say, 15 lakh people. So that is a problem for us in today's times. That wasn't the case in those times. So definitely the geography and the physical relief, elevation as well as the slope that was taken into account before building a city.
And regarding the movement of workers to the citadel, was not allowed?
It was allowed, but with the specific permissions. Because on seals as well as the pottery inscriptions, there are hints and indications, okay, that this functional mobility used to be there, but a kind of, we can say, permissions were required as far as the accessing citadel was concerned. So that might show, that is what, as in society we say, that the kind of a social inequality was possibly there with respect to the IBC, because there was no caste system the way it has become the feature of India today, but class division based on their functions, okay? And so functional division means what? You might not have a social inequality, but you will definitely have economic inequality. Someone would be poor, rich, someone would be poor. So that kind of inequality was visible, because we don't have anything to know about from writing. So only based on town planning features, the inferences have been brought up. The things have been brought up to the conclusion by the archaeologists, scholars, and experts. This is the case, correct?
Is there any evidence of trade center
Yes, so many. Harappa itself was a trade center.
for this?
No. No. For, we cannot say that for elites there was a trade center. Trade center was for the whole city. The kind of a GDP that we have. So cumulative exports, they used to go out. The collective imports, they used to come in. Then distribution will take place. Some cities, they used to act like a distribution center. Okay, that is the case. So accordingly, the evidences we have found regarding the particular city. Some were manufacturing centers, some were trading centers, some were distribution centers. Okay, like Mohenjo-daro was like an administrative center. So based upon that, functional division of the city has also been assigned with regarding the different IBC sites. And more or less, whatever we study about IBC, maximum we study from the 10 to 12 cities that are important. Otherwise, 1000 plus cities have been discovered. We don't go into all. With respect to only 10 to 12 major cities, we get all the information. Okay. Now we can come to society, religion, and culture. Okay. So if you see the society of the Indus Valley, what you can find? That we don't have a clear-cut idea with regards to exact nature or exact character of the IVC society. We cannot say society was purely patriarchal. We cannot say society was purely matriarchal, or even we cannot say society was matrilineal purely. Okay? Purely is a keyword. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between matriarchal and matrilineal? How many of you have sociology as optional? Good. So what is the difference between matriarchy and matrilineal aspects?
Matrilineal is based on female. Matriarchal means female dominance.
In what?
In some family.
Only family?
Family also, like for example, family. Society also.
Society also. Good. Then? Matriarchy means be it a family, be it a society, be it a culture, be it economy, and especially political system. You will have the females only. When you have a succession of the female rulers continuously, that is matriarchy. Okay, so we don't have a clear idea whether a society was patriarchal or matriarchal or even matrilineal. Whatever evidences are available to us, what we can get to see that patriarchal framework is visible, and within that broad patriarchal framework, matrilineal dominances they are clearly found with respect to the status of the females of the IVC. Okay. And if you see the material evidences or archaeological evidences which are used to reconstruct the IVC era, we will get the idea. 70% of the evidences that we get to see from IVC, they are associated with the female products, the female products of daily use, female items of daily use. Okay? Even the items which were used by the females in a kitchen, the utensils, or the kind of pottery that we have, jewelry, then the kind of clothes, cosmetics, everything, all is about females. That means 70% evidences, they will belong to females. Only 30% are regarding males. Now I would like to ask a counter question. On this basis, how we can say that society was being dominated by females? You should be able to think. Just because so many evidences regarding the female goods and services, the products and items are available, how we can say that IVC society had, we can say, the higher status of the females? It was more or less an egalitarian society. How? Critical thinking is required for UPSC. How? That's why I told you, for UPSC history is not fact. It's about logic, reasoning and analysis. Now if more or less the maximum evidences that we have today, even after 5,000 years, they belong to females, it means there was a demand for the products, the goods and the services or the items which were used by the females, correct? Economy always runs based upon the law of demand and supply at a very basic level. Since there was a demand, there was a supply. There are so many manufacturing centers as we have seen. But those who are supplying, if they are supplying based upon demand, how it is possible that there was such a kind of demand. Because unless and until there is a demand, no one is going to supply. कोई loss में तो जाने वाला है नहीं. So why there was so much demand? What can be the reason for that? Just connect with today's life. So many girls are sitting here. But that is what? That is the conclusion. That high social status, associated that status, something is there. So much demand is there, so females were able to purchase these products. For purchasing, what do you require? That means purchasing power. Correct? So to have a higher purchasing power, you should have social freedom. From family till, we can say, at a broader levels of society, you should have that kind of freedom. When you will have a social freedom, you will be allowed to go for education. When you will have education, you will get the skills. When you will have skills, you will get the jobs. And when you will get the jobs, you will have the financial freedom also, or financial independence also. Then only your financial status, your purchasing power is going to be higher. Then only you are going to purchase these products, for which we get the evidences. So since there was a higher social freedom, and since there was a productive time which was spent upon the females' education, it was possible for them to gain the skills and the employments based upon which they were able to go for such a kind of the use of products on a regular basis. Okay, this point we have to keep in mind. And that's why a kind of female driven economy was possible in those times. And that means what? When you spend your productive time in education, then there is no child marriage. There is an inverse relationship between child marriage and education. Later on, when we study Vedic period, during later Vedic period, females' education was banned and a child marriage started. Okay? So always there is an inverse relationship between education and child marriage. So that is an indirect evidence where we can claim there was no child marriage in Indus Valley. Why? The productive time was spent in education, and that's why there is a higher financial status and economic freedom or independence. Then you can go for purchasing purpose. We find the jewelry of both the males and females. Okay, both males and females used to wear the jewelry the way today we have. But maximum jewelry we have found of a gold and silver, it was used by females. Very few male jewelry of a gold and silver has been found. Male jewelry has been found mostly of a semi-precious stones. Different kinds of semi-precious stones were there used in Indus Valley. Males used to wear the jewelry of semi-precious stones. Very few gold and silver jewelry is there. But maximum female jewelry we can find of a gold and silver. And gold and silver is a bullion, very high value. And for having that, you require a higher purchasing power. Okay? So obviously, that is also possible that the husband and the other male members of the family would be taking care of these requirements. That is also a possibility. But it is not possible continuously, because for a whole 2000 years era, through different layers, evidences have been found. So it is not possible continuously unless and until the financial independence is there for females. Only when females are Atmanirbhar, or they are self-independent with respect to their economic and social freedom, they can go for it. And everything is not dependent only on this one. Choice also matters. For choice, more than economy, you require social freedom. Unless and until you have a choice what you want to wear, what you want to basically have as a part of your jewelry or your cosmetics and all kinds of things, okay? Only then basically it is possible to have the demand for such a kind of products. तभी डिमांड होगी, तभी वो सामने वाला बनाएगा, तब जाके वो मार्केट में आएगा. So that choice was possible when there was a social freedom, and that shows the higher educational status not just for females but for the whole society. Society had a broader and a liberal outlook and a mindset, and that's why the females used to get a choice what I want to have. So these are the indirect evidences based upon the material evidences that clearly show what kind of status females must be having. Okay, and that's why the female driven economy we can have in the context of the evidences which are available to us. Same goes for sati also. Sati is what is exactly a sati? when we say sati? A very bane of Indian society. Huh? Sacrifice? Whenever the husband died, as a part of patriarchy, women were forced, it was not a sacrifice as such, it was shown like a sacrifice. Practically, women were forced to just go up on the funeral pyre of the husband. And then obviously it was a, we can say, inhuman practice, which was ultimately brought to an end during British period due to the efforts of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And it was a William Bentinck, the Governor General of Bengal at the time. He was not a Governor General of India, he was a Governor General of Bengal at the time. In 1829, sati practice was brought to an end. Okay? So that we will discuss again when it comes. So normally, based upon the funeral pyre evidences, we find a sati. But even if we accept maybe female was buried directly, if she was buried alive, that kind of evidence also we don't have as a part of sati. Because nowadays skeleton and bone analysis is done, DNA analysis is done, and you can get the idea whether the female has been buried after death or even when she was alive or not. That is also possible with the help of science and biotechnology, and that is used in history also. So from that also, if you just gone to study the skeletons of the Indus Valley females, then you will get the idea that there was no sati as such. Forcefully, the females were not buried alive, and that's why sati was not there. And even if she was forced to go on funeral pyre, we could have got the evidences. Because if it was a regular practice, तो ऐसे हजारों evidences मिल जाते ना, we could have got the evidences in the form of ashes, bone remains. So that is not available. So for that purpose, you will see sati has also been the kind of the one as a practice which was not present in Indus Valley. Okay. Again, if you go on to test the bones of the females, no traces of malnutrition are there. Because if there is malnutrition, there will be a stunted growth. The full body skeletons of the IVC females have been found. If you see the average height of the males, it was 5.5 feet for Indus Valley. And if you see the average height of the female, it was 5 feet. And when we come to Vedic period, that is Aryans. Aryans were a different race. So if you just see the skeletons of the Aryans, the height of the male is 7 feet. And for females, it was 6.5 feet. A complete difference. That shows IVC people, they are of a Dravidian race. That's why Tamil Nadu is taking so much interest now. Why the statue has been built up? Because IVC was like a Dravidian civilization. And Aryan civilization, that is Vedic period. So the differential aspects also with the DNA analysis, they have been proved now. So because of that, what you will see, when we get to see the full skeletons of the IVC females, no traces of the malnutrition are there. Because if there was a malnutrition, you cannot get a full grown skeleton as far as the females are concerned. Okay. Then again, there are no evidences with respect to infanticide, where the girls used to be basically killed just after their birth within first 5 years or so. That kind of a practice which came later on in Rajasthan and other states of India, that is North India, that practice seems also to be absent. Why? Because there are rituals based upon which we can easily find out whether there was an infanticide or not. Because there are a specific practice after infanticide where that so-called child is buried. So that kind of aspects are also missing as far as IVC is concerned. That is also one of the evidence whereby we can see that we don't find any kind of things like that. When we study bones, there is no malnutrition, and as I mentioned, because if there is a malnutrition, there will be effect on brain. Cognitive development will not be possible. And as of now, we are discussing that educational status was higher. If the cognitive development was not proper, they could not have got the education properly. If they did not have the education, they could not have become financially independent. So many aspects are interlinked that we have to keep in mind. Okay? So based upon that, we can easily see that these things have been ruled out. Again, there are so many ritual practices which we find in the IVC. And again, there are housing patterns also. So on that basis also, polygamy has been ruled out. Because if there was a polygamy, number of houses, that means the number of rooms in a single house might have been more. Okay? More number of, we can say, the houses would be devoted as a part of, we can say, joint family. whereas polygamy will always come with joint family, the way it will be in Vedic period, which has become the feature of North India in today's context also. That is also not seen as far as the polygamy is concerned. So from that perspective also, the polygamy has been ruled out. Already I have mentioned the inverse relationship between education and child marriage, and that's why basically child marriage is also absent. Again, for child marriage also there are rituals. Again, there are so many rituals in IVC, but none of the ritual basically gives any kind of indication that this was a ritual performed for child marriage. So child marriage was also absent with respect to IVC. Okay, so that's why more or less the egalitarian features were visible in case of Indus Valley society. And definitely there was no caste system that we can find, but class system was there, and class divisions, mostly economic, they were visible, but chances are high they were also the social divisions. Some kind of social discrimination was also there that we have to keep in mind, along with economic inequality and discrimination with respect to the Indus Valley, based upon the size of the houses, the overall town planning features, and so on. So these angles are very crucial in the context of the understanding of the society. One more evidence is there, like as we can see the dancing girl statue. I think almost all of you have seen that. PC, no? This one? PC, okay. This statue has been found from a public building of the Mohenjo-daro. Okay? This statue has been found from the public building of the Mohenjo-daro. And this dancing girl statue, as I mentioned, it's the oldest bronze statue. It's made of a bronze. What is bronze? Alloy is a proper word. But even for common purpose, mixture is okay. Mixture or alloy of what?
Iron and copper.
Tin and copper. IVC people did not know iron. Okay? LIC was not known to the people of Indus Valley. Lion was not known. Iron was not known. Cow was not known. Okay? Lion was there. Cow was also there. Iron was also there. They did not know it. So LIC was not known to the people of Indus Valley. They knew the copper, and IVC is a Bronze Age civilization. Copper plus tin is equal to bronze. This is a dancing girl statue which is basically found from Mohenjo-daro. This is a completely naked statue. Even today in we can say Western world, be it US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, it is almost next to impossible for any girl to just dance nakedly. Okay? In India we cannot imagine, but even in Western world also, where there is so much liberalism and freedom, it is not possible. But this is completely a statue which is completely naked. So that also shows the mindset of the society. This is the oldest evidence of dancing, music and singing in the world. For art and culture also it is important. Why? Without dance always comes associated with singing and music. So this is the oldest evidence of, we can say, dancing, singing and music in the world. And this statue was found from public buildings. So she was, at that time also, she was supposedly dancing in front of people. At least this was a kind of auditorium of 500 people. So those who were watching her dance, those who were looking at her and she was naked, they were interested in dance as a fine art. They were not objectifying her. So that shows the mindset of the society. That also gives an evidence how the basically people were mature, how the society was mature, how society had the ethical and moral status. That is also an indirect evidence how the status of the female was higher. There is a counter argument also. In Tamil Nadu, because this is a Dravidian, we can say, civilization, more and less whatever evidences we are having. In South and especially in Tamil Nadu, we have one inhuman practice known as dancing girl concept, Devadasi concept, where just after birth or just before puberty, the girls are gifted or they are offered to the, we can say, the temple priest, just to serve the god. But practically, it is the priest who exploits the girls. So that kind of a inhuman practice is there, which is still prevailing on a lesser level now. Earlier, it used to be very high. So there are many experts who have argued that she is a dancing girl. She was like a devdasi. She was a kind of, we can say, a figure whereby she might have been exploited by the so-called male sections of the society. So that was a traditional argument which was there. But considering, and even if you look at her features, she doesn't seem to be the girl of Indus Valley. She has African features. She has a Negroid features. Okay, so it was also argued that she was, because with Mesopotamia and Egypt there was a trade and commerce. So supposedly a slave trade was argued, that there was a slavery and a slave trade, but that has also been negated because we don't have any other evidence to prove that there was a slavery and a slave trade. And even if she might not have a proper IVC features, or she might be from other community or from other race, still whether she was a slave, that cannot be said, we can say with evidence. And even if she was dancing and she was made to dance, that doesn't mean that she was exploited, because other kinds of related evidences are absent. And that's why the other argument, whereby the mindset of the society with respect to the not objectifying the females and the high ethical and moral standards, that has been accepted by the scholars and the experts. So that part also we have to keep in mind. So this is the art and culture evidence that has also been linked with the societal features of the Indus Valley. Okay. So shall we take a break now? Because already it's past 4:30. Okay, ready? So now once we have seen about the society, now we have to see about the religious aspects, because the religion is also itself a part of art and culture with respect to the people of Indus Valley. And along with the religion only, we have to see the burial practices. The how, as a part of rituals, they used to bury their dead. That also we have to see. So once we have seen about more or less the matrilineal features and the dominance of the IVC society within the broader patriarchal framework, and we have also seen that more or less the class system was there, caste system was absent, and a kind of economic and possibly social inequalities were also there. Yet what we can find from religious perspective, if you see the evidences, then multi-religious, multi-ethnic, multicultural and a multiracial society is visible to us. Okay, the best evidence of the religious features and the beliefs of the IVC people that we can find is a seal known as Pashupati Mahadev seal. And seal of the Indus Valley itself is a part of art and culture. Seal of the Indus Valley was made from a semi-precious stone known as steatite. It used to be brought from Central Asia. Initially in the map we saw Shortugai as the northernmost outpost of the Indus Valley. Shortugai basically lied upon the border of Afghanistan and Central Asia of today. Okay, and from there the semi-precious stones, so a soft stone upon which carving is easily possible, that was procured by the people of Indus Valley from Central Asia. And on this stated seal basically, which is of a square shape, you will find the different kinds of features that also give an insight with respect to the Indus Valley society, culture, religion and so on. So most important seal is the Pashupati Mahadev seal, and this Pashupati Mahadev seal is also found from Mohenjo-daro. Just like dancing girl has been found from Mohenjo-daro, the Pashupati Mahadeva seal also we have found from Mohenjo-daro. And this is the most important evidence of the religious beliefs of the people of Indus Valley. When we say Pashupati Mahadev, that means it's a kind of a Lord Shiva, and that's why this seal has been termed as a Proto-Shiva. You can note. Sir John Marshall has termed the so-called deity upon the seal as a Proto-Shiva. Okay? This you have to note under the religious features as a separate heading you have to give. And under that basically we have the most important deity of the Indus Valley is the so-called Pashupati Mahadeva, who has been termed as Proto-Shiva by Sir John Marshall. Okay? Why? Because the latter Shiva of Hinduism that we have, that kind of Lord Shiva we have in case of Indus Valley. And the seal has been found from where? Mohenjo-daro. Okay? If you see the seal, then this so-called deity, it's a 2-horn and 3-face deity. Only the front face is clearly visible. The 2 other faces are also there. Just like a Lord Brahma has a 4 faces. Okay? Possibly a 4th face can also be there, but more or less due to 5,000 years, a damage might have also been struck. That can also be enlarged. Okay. This is the way. So basically, due to the damage and wear and tears over the bit of time, maybe the one more face might have been disappeared. So whatever may be the case, as of now we have the 3-face and 2-horn deity that we have. If you see, deity is sitting upon a throne, and deity is sitting in a Padmasana or a folded leg position. Sometimes such a kind of position also UPSC asks. Because one question has been asked by UPSC in case of Gautam Buddha, the Bhumi Sparsha Mudra of Gautam Buddha. When we normally go for penance, no, we have the hands stretched in this direction, the fingers go towards earth. Earth means a Bhumi, and the fingers touch the earth. That is called Bhumi Sparsha. That has been asked by UPSC in case of Gautam Buddha. So in that case also, this is called as a Padmasana position, the folded leg position. And below throne you can find 2 deers. Below the throne of the Lord Shiva or a Proto Shiva or Pashupati Mahadeva, 2 deers are found. And if you see the in a clockwise manner, we have the wild animals. We have the we have this the kind of wild buffalo. Then we have the elephant and we have tiger. Okay, so this seal is giving an indication towards the religious beliefs also. It is indicating towards the peaceful coexistence between the man and the animal. Because in Odisha we see nowadays the man-animal conflict is increasing. In case of railway tracks and all these things also, so many elephants, they unfortunately die or they lose their life due to speeding trains and all these things. These are the parts of current affairs. So here we find a kind of a sustainable development model. You might have read about sustainable development goals and the kind of what is sustainable development, where we use resources judiciously by keeping in mind the requirements of the future generations. So that requires a peaceful coexistence with the ecosystem and biodiversity. And that is the message which is given by the seals of Indus Valley. So that is what the religion was. It's a nature-based worship. Because Hinduism is the oldest religion of the world, which is followed in India. So that is also based upon nature-based worship. So this is the example that we can find. Okay, even though Hinduism will come officially later on, but the earliest evidences you find here. And if you see these animals, the wild animals especially, and including the deers also, all these animals we can find, rhino you can find only in Assam. But other animals you can find in Odisha also, Chhattisgarh also, in Jharkhand also, West Bengal also, including Assam also. There is a high rainfall area. Deep south you can find them in Karnataka and Kerala. Okay, so that shows about geography and climate also. So today the area of Indus Valley, it's a Thar desert. But these animals show that this was a high rainfall area, because these are the animals which are found in tropical areas which require minimum 200 centimeters of rainfall. And here also lies the answer for decline of Indus Valley. If the IVC ultimately came to an end, it came to an end due to climate change. The very climate change we are witnessing today also. The very Thar desert which developed, that was due to the climate change. The rainfall which started decreasing. Today in Odisha we have high humidity. But if you come to Rajasthan, you might have a 50-degree temperature. But you will not feel like that having a 50-degree temperature, because there is a aridity. For 10 years there is no rainfall in Kutch region in Rajasthan. That's what desert is there. No? That desert had started developing at the end of IVC. So before that, that area was also having the same, more or less the same climate which Odisha has, which Assam has, or the Kerala or Karnataka has. So that is kind of an indication also about geography and climate we can have with respect to the seal. But from religious perspective, what is the case? It was about the nature-based worship, the peaceful coexistence between the men and the animals. live and let live, the principle which we Indians follow, that is visible here. Okay, and this is the what you have to note. This is the only male deity of IBC. Okay, that again proves society was matrilineal. Why? You have thousands of the figures of mother goddess. Female goddess worship is more frequent compared to male worship. This is the only male deity of the Indus Valley that we have. Other than that, we don't have any evidence of the male deity of the Indus Valley. Okay. Other than this, what you will find? Thousands of the figures of mother goddess. These are the mother goddess figures, which we find in the IBC as a part of terracotta and clay figures with respect to archaeological evidence. And this worship was ubiquitous. Everywhere in IBC area, you find mother goddess worship. But Pashupati Mahadeva still only you find in Mohenjo-daro. And that also shows she has been considered as a goddess of a primordial energy. As we say in Hinduism, Adi Shakti. Okay? So that Adi Shakti concept has been here. Mother goddess was worshipped as a goddess responsible for creation of universe. And the mother goddess concept has also been brought to basically justify the latter philosophical concept, the concept of Purush and Prakriti. The question has been asked by UPSC regarding this in 2013. That becomes a part of a Sankhya philosophy. Purush means a male spirit and Prakriti means a female spirit. Okay? So these are the two aspects of the nature. And the union of the Purush and Prakriti, it goes on to have the creation of universe. Okay? So this mother goddess has been considered as a goddess of a primordial energy, the kind of atomic energy that we have. So the scientific aspects or the aspects of the physics, they have been tried to be interpreted through the religious means. And based upon the overall character and the nature of the society, the mother goddess worship is more and more frequent compared to the male worships. That also we have to keep in mind. Okay? And this mother goddess, one of the most famous example of the mother goddess is one mother goddess which has been shown having an earthling or a kind of a plant coming out of her womb. Okay, and on that basis she has been considered as the goddess of a fertility of agriculture. She has been considered as the goddess of a, we can say, agricultural prosperity. And probably mother goddess was not just the goddess of agricultural prosperity, she was also the goddess of, we can say, the human progeny, the generational continuity. That also we have to keep in mind. So you should write the way I will tell you. What you have written as of now? Pashupati Mahadeva seal has been found from Mohenjo-daro and it's the only male deity of the Indus Valley. Okay, next part. Different wild animals found upon Pashupati Mahadeva seal. Different wild animals found upon Pashupati Mahadeva seal also indicate towards different wild animals found upon Pashupati Mahadeva seal also indicate towards peaceful coexistence. Peaceful coexistence between the humans and animals. Also indicate towards the peaceful coexistence between the humans and the animals. Okay. Next, they also give the message of environmental conservation. They also give the message of environmental conservation apart from nature-based worship. Okay, they also give the evidence of environmental conservation apart from nature-based worship. Correct? Next, however, However, worship of a mother goddess was more regular and common. Worship of the mother goddess was more regular and common in consonance with, in consonance, CONSONNANCE, in consonance with the higher status of the females in society. In consonance with the higher status of the females in a society. Okay. Next one. Mother goddess has been considered as a goddess of fertility. Mother goddess has been considered as a goddess of fertility. In bracket, both human as well as agricultural. Both human as well as agricultural. Okay. Next, at least one terracotta figure of the mother goddess. At least one terracotta figure of the mother goddess has an earthling or a sapling. At least one terracotta figure of the mother goddess has an earthling or a sapling coming out of her womb oblique navel. At least one terracotta figure of the mother goddess has an earthling or a sapling coming out of her womb oblique navel. NAVEL. Showing her to be the goddess of agricultural prosperity. Okay? Showing her to be a goddess of agricultural prosperity. Correct? This point we have to keep in mind. Okay? And why this is so? No need to write. Because if you see that the beautiful cities which the people of IVC had built, for which we have the evidences, they were built from the revenue which was available to them from the agricultural surplus. Only when they had a surplus agriculture, they were in a position to go for manufacturing, and only when they had a manufacturing, they were in a position to go for foreign trade and commerce. And then from that foreign trade and commerce, much more money will come as a part of profits. So just like today also, agriculture lies at we can say the base of the GDP. Same was the case in case of IVC also. The whole IVC urbanization, the whole IVC town planning, the whole IVC prosperity, and the material development and the kind of pleasures which they had, that was based upon the agricultural fertility and the prosperity. And somewhere they were worshipping the mother goddess as a mother earth. Whereas in later period, that is in Rigvedic period. In Rigvedic period also we have the concept of a Bhudevi. In Rigveda there has been a goddess mentioned as a Bhudevi or a goddess Prithvi. The very term we get for earth, Prithvi, the Sanskrit term, it comes from Rigveda. She has also been worshipped for the same reason. So that interconnection is also visible between the Vedic period and the mother goddess of the Indus Valley. Okay, so from that perspective, basically the people were worshipping the goddess, which was more frequent. Correct. But apart from this Pashupati Mahadeva still, as well as this so-called mother goddess, we also have some more evidences regarding the IVC religious beliefs. Again, first I will tell, then we will write. So in northwestern part of IVC, or today's Afghanistan, Pakistan area, close to Jammu and Kashmir, we have found so many Shivlingas. or a phallus and a yoni worship, the way we have even today as a part of, we can say, any Shiv temple. And here the Shivlinga doesn't have any sexual connotation. The phallus or linga means what? It was about Purush, as I mentioned. And the very yoni was about, we can say, Prakriti. And again, that union led to the creation of universe. Okay? And the continuity of, we can say, the human species. That kind of a concept was there with respect to northwest of India. And if you see in future also, much later than the IVC, or roughly around, we can say, just before Christ and just after Christ, we will have many foreign invasions, especially led by Shaks and Kushans. You must have heard these names. So these Shaks and Kushanas, they also used to worship Shivlingas. They also came from this very same northwestern area, the Khyber Pass, through which the invasions used to come. So even almost 2000 years after IVC, same this phallus and linga worship was continued by even those people who came from outside India. Shaks and Kushan, they had come from Central Asia. Still, when they landed in this area, they were worshipping these Shivlingas. So that shows the cultural continuity in the context of IVC. So you don't find the so-called Shivlinga worship in Gujarat or Rajasthan, except that means only in that northwestern region you will find it. So that was also visible as a part of, we can say, religious beliefs. Then already we discussed, we have found fire altars from Kalibangan. But Kalibangan is not the only place. Fire altars have also been found from Lothal. Along with Kalibangan, Lothal is also a place from where fire altars have been found. That means somewhere fire worship and a fire cult was also popular during the time of IVC. Okay, so we have Pashupati Mahadeva as a seal, male deity. We have the mother goddess as a female deity. Then we have the Shivlinga worship. Then we have the fire altars or fire worship. Then, just like today, we observe what puja? Okay, the worship of banyan tree. And this is a cultural continuity that we get from Indus Valley. Why? Because if you observe the pottery of the Indus Valley, on the pottery of the Indus Valley, the worship of people tree, the very people tree under which Buddha got the enlightenment, okay, which is now known as the Bodhi tree. So the people tree and banyan tree means the very tree of, we can say, what? So this people tree and banyan tree, that was worshipped as a part of, we can say, Indus Valley also. And that worship is visible on the pottery. So pottery itself is a medium of communication regarding the thought process and the beliefs of the people. And even after 5,000 years, we may not have a people tree worship, but definitely the banyan tree worship is continuing almost all over India. So this point we have to keep in mind. So that shows a cultural continuity. So again, this shows that they were worshipping the trees as a part of nature, biodiversity. They knew the importance of, we can say, the kind of a plant life as a part of overall ecosystem. So that message again goes. So everything is connected with nature with respect to IVC beliefs. So this is also very important. So that shows the kind of religious beliefs we can have in the context of Indus Valley. And these beliefs are found in different areas, except the mother goddess, which is found everywhere as a part of worship. The other beliefs are like a region specific beliefs. That shows that multicultural, multiracial and multi-ethnic society was living there. Because otherwise such a kind of diversity you would not have found. It is not a case that everyone is going to follow the same religious beliefs. Within the broader, we can say, framework, if there are different religious beliefs, that means somewhere that multi-ethnic and multicultural society that was clearly there. And there is no evidence of any kind of clash or conflict. So the religious harmony, social harmony, the tolerance is a message that we get to see from the people of Indus Valley and their religious beliefs. That also we have to keep in mind in the context of the evidences that we have. Okay, so write the next one.
Religious tolerance.
That we will write later on. First we will write this one, the Shivlinga worship and all these things. Next point. In northwest of India only, in bracket, northwestern part of IVC, in northwest of India only, in bracket, the northwestern part of the IVC, the worship of the people tree, the worship of the phallus, that is linga, the worship of phallus, that is linga. Phallus, phallus, that is linga. And shall I write the spelling? Shall I write the spelling of phallus?
Yes, sir.
So where we have to come? Where? Here, na?
Pen. Yeah.
But daddy, this is a different slide, I guess. Okay. Anyways. It's a part of a Sankhya philosophy. Okay? The concept of Purush and Prakriti. It has been explained in the Sankhya philosophy later on. And UPSC had asked the question in 2013. Okay? That Sankhya philosophy is also called Sankhya Yoga. The creation of universe is dependent upon the union of the Purush and Prakriti. Okay? Next one. The fire altars found from Lothal and Kalibangan. Fire altars found from the Lothal and Kalibangan indicate towards the fire altars found from the Lothal and Kalibangan indicate towards the prevalence of fire worship in IBC society. Indicate towards the prevalence of the fire worship in a IBC society. Okay? Correct? Next. The evidence of the people tree and the banyan tree worship. The evidence of the people tree and the banyan tree worship. On the IBC pottery. The evidence of the people tree and the banyan tree worship on the IBC pottery. Which continues even today. In many parts of India. Again shows the importance of the nature-based worship. Again shows the importance of the nature-based worship, comma, the biodiversity. Again shows the importance of the nature-based worship, comma, the biodiversity, and a plant life during the IVC period. ठीक है? Clear? But no, don't no need to write. I will tell. But the point is that all things that we are witnessing is indicating towards this nature-based worship and all these things. But we don't have a single evidence of any kind of temple. We don't have any single evidence of the idol worship. This is a PYQ asked by UPSC in 2011. Okay, there is not a single evidence of any temple as such or temple-based worship. There is not a single evidence of, we can say, any kind of ritual worship. There is not a single evidence of, we can say, any kind of traditions and customs which are followed in a very rigid manner. And there is no evidence where the priestly class was properly established. There is no evidence. Okay? So religious life was important as a part of IVC evidences, but it never dominated the whole social life or public life. This is a statement given by UPSC, which is correct. Religion was very, very important and integral part of the IVC life, but it was always secular. Indus Valley civilization was always secular. As I mentioned, the religious harmony, social harmony, the tolerance, that was a kind of message. The live and let live concept. And no rigidity is found the way we can find in later part of the Indian history and as a part of Hinduism. And more or less the customs and traditions that even continue in today's context also, that were absent in the context of the IVC. So this point we have to keep in mind in the context of the IVC DNA with respect to religion. Okay, and also the thing is that along with this, if you see contrarily in Mesopotamia or Egypt, you will find the grand temples as a part of evidences, and properly established priestly class or priesthood. But here we don't have that, despite the fact we have a very famous evidence. Okay. Despite having the evidence of this priest king of Mohenjo-daro, our Modi ji of 5,000 years ago, दिखते ना, तो जिबिली या घिबिली आर्ट में डाल दिया तो वैसे दिखेंगे. So, and based upon this single evidence, we have that kind of explanation that IVC society had a patriarchal framework with a matrilineal dominance. Why? This is evidence. He was a priest, he was a theologian, but he has been termed as the ruler or a king of the whole IVC civilization. Okay, and this statue has been found from Mohenjo-daro, and this priest king statue, despite being the fact that he was a priest, based upon the all evidences associated with him, as I mentioned, other than that, we don't have any evidence of a proper priesthood. And that's why the priestly class was absent, priesthood was absent, and the kind of customs, rituals and traditions in a rigid way, they were also absent. And we don't have any temple worship also, we don't have any idol worship also. Okay, so we can write again that. The next one. All kinds of religious diversity. All kinds of religious diversity. Temple worship and idol worship was absent in Indus Valley. In bracket, UPSC 2013 PYQ. Okay. Next, priesthood and priestly class as a distinct feature was absent in IBC. Priesthood and a priestly class as a distinct feature was absent in IBC. Despite the evidences of a world famous priest king statue, despite the evidences of the world famous priest king statue of Mohenjo-daro. Okay. Next, hence, even though religion used to play a major role in even IBC life, hence, even though the religion used to play a major role in IBC life, it never dominated the public life. Even though religion used to play a major role in IBC life, comma, it never dominated the public life. And as such, IBC was a secular civilization. And as such, IBC was a secular civilization. In bracket, UPSC 2011/13, ये 2011 या 13 दोनों में से किसी एक का क्वेश्चन है ये. ठीक है. So this is very crucial. So this is about the religious life of the IBC as a part of art and culture of the IBC. Sorry, there was no mass gathering in a particular. We don't have evidences as such because we don't have temples or any kind of religious institutions, no, or a kind of a public places of a worship. They are absent, despite the fact so many buildings are there. But we cannot assign a particular building or a place as a public worship place. On an individual basis, in respective areas, you will find the mother goddess terracotta figures. Even we don't find any copper or bronze figure of the mother goddess. All the figures of the mother goddess, they have been found in all parts of the IBC. They are terracotta figures, and more or less they have been found as a part of, we can say, the distinct areas, city by city or even village by village. They have been found, and based upon that, and again these are the figures which are found in a scattered manner. At a one place you don't find hundreds of figures. Collectively hundreds of figures are there. So again, as a part of, maybe for the whole city one goddess might be there, or on an individual basis the goddess might have been worshipped. So that was the kind of case. So we cannot say predictably there was a mass gathering or not, or mass offerings were there or not, because a kind of a mass ritual is also absent. We have many evidence of the rituals, but they are on a basically on a selective basis or an individual basis, not on a basis of collective collective form. So that's why we have to keep in mind that anything as such as a part of institutionalized manner in case of religion, that was absent. And a mass feature would definitely be not the case in case of IBC, despite having so much of a diversity. So you will find a religious harmony and tolerance, and despite having that diversity, respect would be given to each other, so we can see the beliefs and so on, but nothing would be the case as a part of forcing something upon someone. So that is the case which gives it a secular character. Okay? So next point. So religious harmony, religious and social harmony, comma, tolerance, religious and social harmony, comma, the tolerance, and coexistence also seems to be the feature of Indus Valley society and a culture. Okay, also seems to be the feature of IVC society and culture. Clear? Now, in the same manner, you will find the diversity in the case of burial practices also. And again, city by city, the diversity goes into, we can say, different mode. For example, if you see Harappa has evidence of east to west burial, because normally the burial pattern of the IVC was north to south. Normally, when we say we should not sleep in the direction of, we can say, south. Why? Because this is the direction of the god Yam. यमराज जो है हमारे, उनकी दिशा मानी जाती है. सो अगर साउथ की तरफ पैर करके सोएंगे तो यमराज उठा के लेके जाएंगे. सो कॉल्ड गॉड ऑफ डेथ, because Yam will be the god of death in Rigveda, that we will study later on. But that is a kind of superstition. But there was a logic, because people of IVC were scientific. They knew the north pole and south pole of the earth, the magnetic pole of the earth, and the effect of that magnetic pole upon, we can say, the neurological system. So as a part of, we can say, their burial beliefs, you will see they will bury their dead in north to south. But as a part of sleeping pattern, they would not be going for, we can say, north-south sleep when you are alive. So that scientific aspect later on became the part of a culture in a superstitious manner. So normally north to south was a pattern with respect to burial, but Harappa is the exception where you will find the dead were buried in a east to west pattern. And in Harappa, the kind of burials we found, the symmetries which are found, they are found in the H shape, because you have the two rows of a north to south burial and one row of a east to west burial, and that creates a pattern of a English alphabet H. So symmetry H culture it is called. And that is the only example in IVC regarding east west burial along with north south. Other than Harappa, everywhere you have north to south burial only. And north to south burial means what? Head would be in north, legs would be in south. This is the kind of burial pattern you have. Okay, this is a pattern based on direction. Now there are patterns based on burial practice in the form of techniques. So normal burial, that is pit burial. गड्ढा खोदोगे, dead body को डालोगे. The pit burial was very common, which is found everywhere, including Harappa also. But pit burial was more common in Lothal. Pit burial is found everywhere, but it was more regular in Lothal. Okay? Harappa basically it had foreigners burial. Only evidence of the foreigners burial in IVC that has been found from Harappa. One Mesopotamian merchant, basically he had come for trade and commerce purpose in Harappa, because Harappa was known as a town of merchants. Despite the fact merchant class was established distinctly in Dholavira, yet Harappa was also known as a merchant town. But we don't have a middle town in Harappa. We have only citadel and door town. And merchant, since it was a kind of a merchant town, so this so-called Mesopotamian merchant who had come, he died in Harappa. And then he was given a respected and a ceremonial burial in Harappa, because Atithi Devo Bhava concept we always follow. So how we can know that this was a foreigner's burial? Because if you just go by his skeleton pattern, then again you will see that his skeleton pattern is completely different from that of a people of Indus Valley. And second thing, the way he has been buried, that burial is found only in Mesopotamia. We don't find that kind of a burial and rituals in Harappa. So that has given the clear-cut clues that the foreigner's burial was visible only in Harappa. As of now, in no other city we have a foreigner's burial. Okay, but if you come to Mohenjo-daro, you have normal pit burial, but along with pit burial, you have cremation also. Cremation, which is a practice of Hinduism today, that becomes the practice from Vedic period. In Harappa, cremation was very less. 80% it was a burial, just like we have in Islam or Christianity, and 20% was cremation. But whatever evidences of a cremation have been found, maximum evidences you will find from Mohenjo-daro. So Mohenjo-daro has the cremation. Normally the way we go, Mohenjo-daro basically has a post cremation burial. डेड बॉडी को जला दिया आपने, अस्थियां आ गई, then you are today what we do, we just offer this so-called remains after the cremation to the river Ganga or any holy sacred river. It wasn't the case. Once you have the remains in the form of, we can say, ashes, or the bone ashes, then you will bury them. That is called post cremation burial. Okay, then you have post burial cremation also. In Mohenjo-daro you have post burial cremation also. So you have buried a dead body, it has been decayed, only skeleton is there or bones are there. You will dig up the so-called pit, you will bring the bones, you will put it in a pot, okay? And then basically what you will do, then you will just go on to have, sorry, what I am saying, you will just dig up the whole dead body. You are burying that dead body for some time, like Babur, the first Mughal emperor, he was buried in Agra. When he died, his dead body was taken out, then again it was taken to Afghanistan in Kabul, and in Bagh-e-Babur, which the garden which he had built, he was buried later on, because that was the wish of the Babur. So in post, we can say, burial cremation, what you do, after a week or after 10 days or 15 days, you again bring the dead body back. You take that dead body, go on to have cremation. That is called post cremation burial. So both ways you can find a burial as far as the Mohenjo-daro is concerned. Then Mohenjo-daro also has a water burial. Okay? Water burial means just you throw the dead body along the flow of the river, and whatever will happen to that dead body, that is the kind of a fate of the dead body. So that is called water burial, which is also found only in Mohenjo-daro. You don't find a water burial anywhere else as far as the IVC city is concerned. Okay, so that was the kind of a, we can say, diversity is there with respect to burial, with respect to Harappa, with respect to Mohenjo-daro. But the biggest or the most diverse concept of a burial you will find in Lothal. In Lothal you have a normal pit burial. In Lothal you will have coffin burial. Okay, where you are putting a wooden, we can say, coffin in a pit, then you are closing it down. Okay, in Lothal you have double burial, and double burial means when one male and one female is buried together, that is called double burial. That is found only in Lothal. Okay, then sorry, double burial means basically you are burying two males, two females, one child, one adult together. That is called double burial. That you find in Lothal. Lothal also has a joint burial. Joint burial means one male and one female. When you bury together, that is also called as a joint burial, and you find it only in Lothal. Okay. Again, Lothal you will find cremation. Again in Lothal you will find post cremation burial. So most diverse type of burials basically, along with cremation, you will find in Lothal. Pit burial, coffin burial, double burial, joint burial, post cremation burial. Cremation is also there, and one more is there, pot burial. Like in a pit, when we are keeping a dead body, you are also keeping a pot, which shows the belief in afterworld. That the one that's kind of a departing soul. Probably it also shows the belief in soul. The departing, that dead body basically a kind of a departing soul. Whatever material requirements that soul might have in a future life, they are kept together. It may be jewelry, a kind of a favorite food item that a particular person might like in his life, like that. So that, and this is a common practice in Egypt and Mesopotamia also. So that pot burial is also fine as far as the Lothal is concerned. So Lothal gives the most diverse belief and evidences with respect to burial practices. So Harappa, Mohenjo-daro and Lothal, these are three sites based upon which we can find the maximum evidences of the burial. That again shows multiracial, multi-ethnic society was visible, and multi-religious society was visible. Okay? Because not a single homogeneous society can have such a kind of diverse practices. It is possible only when you have multi-ethnic, multiracial, we can say, nature, and you have multiple religious beliefs, or multiple, we can say, customs and traditions or rituals that we have to keep in mind. So we can write about burials separately. You can give a separate heading, burial practices. I will just go on board also. Again here are notes. Home. Start. Yes.
pressure that thickness of that letter.
Shall I reduce that? Color is okay, na? Is it okay? Okay. So we will have different types of burials with respect to the Indus Valley, and from 3 cities or sites we can have the evidences. Harappa, we have foreigners burial. Then we have east-west burial in Harappa, along with traditional north-south burial. Okay. Then Mohenjo-daro, what we have? Kind of water burial. We have the cremation. Then we have the post-cremation burial. Then we have post-burial cremation, for which you have to exhume the body. The dead body which is buried, when it is again dig it out and brought back, that is called exhumation. Okay. And Mohenjo-daro also has a pit burial, normal burial as we have. Okay. And then we will have Lothal, which has a most diverse burial practices. We have pit burial in Lothal. We have the pot burial, coffin burial, joint burial, that is male and female, double burial, 2 males, 2 females, 1 adult, 1 child, 2 children, everything is double burial. Then cremation is also there, and post cremation burial is there. In Lothal we don't have. Just you have to go for a dead body along with the flow of the water or a river. That is called water burial. Or sometimes, like the Parsis also, they go for, you just expose the dead body for That is open burial. That is not a water burial, that is open burial. But in the water burial, basically for a marine creatures, you are exposing a body. Okay. But what we get to see, that maximum evidences that we have, that is for the burials. Cremation is very limited in any case. And once the Vedic period will start, cremation will start dominating. Sorry? There was no Hinduism. Many features they are resembling with respect to Hinduism. But officially for IVC, the word Hinduism is not used. Okay? The birth of the oldest surviving religion of the world, that is Hinduism, we witness only with the advent of Rig Veda. Rig Veda is the oldest religious as well as literary text of the world that can be found anywhere. And even for most part of the ancient Indian history, the word Hinduism was not used. The word Hinduism came only after the Gupta period, when the ancient Indian history comes to an end. Okay? When the temple worship will become the feature. Today, Hinduism cannot be imagined without temples. But for the most part of its existence, Hinduism also did not have the temples. Earliest visible religious structures that we can find in India are a stupa. 2023 UPSC has asked a question upon stupa. Okay? Stupa, they belong to Buddhism. But that doesn't mean stupa exclusively belong to Buddhism. Stupas are also found in Vedic period. But in the Vedic period, stupas were not worshipped. Worship of the stupa comes only with Buddhism. So things are complex. You don't have a single temple before Gupta period. That we have to keep in mind from archaeological perspective. Not even the ruins you can find. As I mentioned, Shishupalgarh. You will find a Lingaraj temple, Konark temple or Jagannath Puri temple much later, after 10th century. Between 10th to 13th century, basically, Odisha witnessed these temple developments. Which style is followed in Odisha temples? Without study, you should know. Which style of temple building is followed in Odisha?
It is a mixture of Dravid and Nagara.
It's a mixture of Dravid.
Nagara and Dravid.
That is called where, sir?
Kalinga style.
The Kalinga style means what? Nagara and Dravid, that mixture is called Vesar, which is not a feature of Odisha. Not possible. Dravid style is found south of river Krishna till Kanyakumari. Vesar style lies between Krishna and Narmada. Kalinga is a very distinct style. Huh? What is it? That is a distinct style, Kalinga style. What that style is? UPSC has already asked a question. What is Nagar, what is Vesar and what is Dravid? That is a 2014 question, I guess. UPSC has asked art and culture. Kalinga style is a subset or a subset of a Nagar style of temple building. Nagar means a North Indian style. But Kalinga style is a subset of the Nagar style. And that's why there is a distinct East Indian temple building which is found in Odisha, Assam and Bengal. Okay? That is basically separated from the Nagar style after the temples of Odisha, which started coming up after 9th, 10th century AD. And Kalinga style, basically when we have the kind of a modified Nagar style. So you have the concept of Rekha Pida, Pida Dev, okay? Khakra, Jagati, the platform, Jagmohan. Jagmohan is a mandap. So these terms, they are distinct from the one which we have in Nagar style, that we will find later on after Gupta period. So in Odisha also, if you go to the excavation of Shishupalgarh or Udayagiri, Khandagiri, do we find any temples? You don't find any temple as such. Okay? The Hindu temple I am talking about. You don't find. For Dhauli, basically you can have the ruins of a stupa, Ashoka stupa, but you don't have a Hindu temple. Why? Because before Gupta period, we don't have a single temple. That's why in Indus Valley also there is no temple. And at any cost, as you ask, IBC cannot be called as a Hinduism, even though many features resemble the Hinduism. There are many common features which come in Vedic period also, and as a part of Vedic practices also. But still, as a distinct religion, we cannot say this was a Hinduism. We cannot say this was even a proto-Hinduism. So nothing has been termed as a part of, we can say, certain religious term with respect to IBC.
The prevalence of the burials belongs to, means what can we guess that burial type of,
The part of, we can say, disposing the dead body, the part of the belief associated with that burial practice, the part of, we can say, the kind of kith and kin relations that might be visible in society at a time. That is what the burial has all about. We cannot find any religious feature from perspective of burial. We have a ritualistic feature. That was a part of their, we can say, the way of life. And what is the religion? Religion doesn't mean the worship of gods and goddesses only. Religion means a way of life. The kind of life you basically live, the kind of life which you have, the kind of outlook you have, and that outlook brings the kind of a behavior, the attitudes and the thought processes, the actions. That becomes a religion. Religion also means justice. UPSC has asked the question, what is dharma? 2011 PYQ is there. Dharma means justice. Dharma means an order. When we say a law and order, so when there is a dharma or order in a society, society will go in a positive way. When there is anarchy, dharma has collapsed. This is the actual meaning of the dharma, not the way we perceive only the God and worship and all these things. Okay? That is just one part, the one segment of the broader term called dharma. This is the case, and that became the part of a, we can say, Indian way of life. And that dharma means what? Even the Buddhism is also dharma, Jainism is also dharma, Hinduism is also dharma, and even other alternative practices which used to oppose this so-called established dharmas or religious beliefs, they were also dharmas. Because dharma was a way of life. Your way of life might be different from my way of life. Your thought process is different, your beliefs are different, because ultimately humans are different. They are made different, and that's why there is a diversity. And if you respect the diversity, then only the harmony is there. It will start from the individual level, it will transfer into social level, it will transfer into the religious level. That's why we call it religious tolerance, social tolerance, and a way of life. Okay? That is what the Ashoka's Dhamma was. Ashoka's Dhamma was not a religion, it was not a sect, it was not a faith. It was a social and moral code of conduct, just to maintain the order of the society without using any kind of violence. Because Ashoka had just taken a pledge that after Kalinga war, he is going to just shed away the violence completely. But still, he maintained the whole empire for next 37 years without any damage, without any external invasion. How? Because that Dhamma was there, and that Dhamma was like a constitution of India or constitution of Mauryan Empire at the time. So that is what the meaning of the Dhamma is. And Dhamma will always change in terms of the era, the time frame, the context, the situation. Because the ethics and morals, when we say, they are more or less as a part of a broader form or a broader framework and term, they might be common, but they will change in the context of time and circumstances. They will change based upon the, we can say, changes in the society. Okay? So if in a Western society, if you go, smoking has now more or less, now it is becoming very common in Indian society also. But a few years back, smoking, especially smoking by girls, eyes will be raised, eyebrows will be raised. Okay? But it was very common in West even 50 years ago. Why? Because the context of the morals and ethics is different, society by society. What might be the ethics and morals in Odisha might not be the case in Rajasthan, or vice versa, or any part of India. So accordingly, that changes will be there. So this is what it becomes a part of, we can say, the broader way of life called as a Dhamma or Dharma. Okay? Anyways, so what, where we are actually? So you have noted, now? Okay. Now last part that we have to discuss about IBC is that regarding the features of economy briefly and the script. Okay. So again, I will go for a board, and then we will get it. Okay, so what we will find, that agriculture was like a backbone as far as the economy was concerned. Okay, we have the evidence of a furrowed field in case of IBC, and that furrowed field we will find at Kalibangan, and that is known as the earliest furrowed field of the world. Anywhere in the world, this is the earliest evidence of a furrowed field that we can find in the world. Okay, furrowed means, like, suppose you have operated a tractor, the marks which it will leave in a soil, the parallel lines, horizontal, vertical, whatever may be, that is called furrows. So at that time tractor and modern machinery was not there, so somewhere the plowshare must have been used, no? But we don't have evidence of plowshare, we don't have the evidence of hoe. Then how it is possible? We have the furrowed field, and that furrowed field which is found at Kalibangan, it goes back to 7,000 years ago. That means it goes back to pre-Harappan phase. Okay? And that is still intact despite having so many earthquakes and geological or tectonic shifts. So you have a furrowed field, so something must have been used in a soil, no? Otherwise, how agriculture is possible? So only answer is that they must be using wooden plowshare, because wood is a perishable material. Wood is a cellulose. Wood has a carbon. Once it is disintegrated in a, we can say, soil, it will get mixed up in a soil. It will degrade into soil. Similarly, except Shortugai, we don't have any canal irrigation. Shortugai, as we saw in map, northernmost outpost of IBC, Afghanistan Central Asia border. Only at Shortugai you have canal irrigation evidences. Otherwise, you don't have a canal irrigation in rest of the IBC. But there was irrigation. Okay? So what kind of irrigation was there? Canal irrigation. Excess flooded water of the river Indus or any other river, it was channelized by digging up, we can say, the kind of channels towards the agricultural field. Then you find a balance between cash crop and food crops. And since there was a cash crop culture, they used to go for, we can say, foreign trade and commerce with Egypt and Mesopotamia. This point we have to keep in mind. But they were also maintaining the food crops also to maintain food security. Sorry. Cash crop means the crops which basically yield you a higher price. like food crops, they might be giving you unlimited profits. But if you go for a cash crops like cotton, sugarcane, indigo, you can earn basically thousands and lakhs. So the three earliest cash crops of the world, we have gifted the world these three crops. Earliest cash crop of the world, cotton, was grown by people of Indus Valley. Okay? IVC people were the first one to grow the cotton in the world. From us, Egypt people learned the art of growing the cotton. Today the best cotton of the world comes from river Nile. Okay? But in those times, we were used to give the best of the cotton. Unfortunately, after partition, we have lost the cotton area to Pakistan. So this is the case because most of the Indus flows from Pakistan. This is the case. Then we were the first one to use the dyed cotton. Okay? And what is the meaning of the dyed cotton? The natural dye, that is indigo. Char bundo wala ujala. Okay? But that was a natural, organic one. Indigo is blue, no? Neel. Indigo revolt we study in modern India. Neel Darpan. So basically, indigo as a cash crop was also grown by people of IVC. Okay? When it comes to sugarcane, in different books, you will find different interpretations and there is a chance of confusion. What we have to keep in mind, people of Indus Valley did not know sugarcane, but till what phase? Till the late Harappan phase. Okay? In pre-Harappan phase, they did not know sugarcane. In early Harappan phase, they did not know sugarcane. In mature Harappan phase also, they did not know sugarcane. Only in a late Harappan phase, when IVC was in a process of declining, all the cities like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, they were getting destroyed. From Gujarat, you will get the evidence of sugarcane. Okay? Because for sugarcane, basically, you have to come to the south of Tropic of Cancer. You require more rainfall. Okay? For sugarcane, basically, more humidity is required, and that is available south of Gujarat. So from Gujarat to Tamil Nadu, this is the area where even today sugarcane is grown. Uttar Pradesh is an exception due to Green Revolution. But otherwise, naturally, based on climate and geography, sugarcane is possible only in tropical climate. North of a Tropic of Cancer, we have semi-tropical India, and south of Tropical Cancer, we have tropical India. These are two divisions of India, as you can study in geography. So because of that, basically, you get the evidence of sugarcane only in late Harappan phase, last phase, declining phase from Gujarat. That you can keep in mind. Same is the case with rice. So first you should write, wheat and barley was a staple crop of the people of Indus Valley. Food crop में सबसे staple crop कौन सा था? Wheat and barley. Wheat and barley. गेहूं. Just today also north and northwest of India is famous for wheat, no? And barley. Nothing has changed after 5,000 years. And again, come to the south of, we can say, Tropic of Cancer, rice belt will start. Odisha is a rice belt. So 60% India is a rice belt now. That is from Maharashtra till we can say up to Assam and Northeast, your rice belt. Okay? But if you come towards, we can say Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, the Green Revolution area, and up to, we can say, the Madhya Pradesh, you have the wheat belt. So in case of rice also, what we have? Sorry, what I mentioned? The wheat and barley were the staple crops of the IVC. Okay? And rice was absent. And rice was absent in first 3 stages or phases of the IVC. And rice was absent from the first 3 stages or phases of the IVC. Okay. So only in, we can say, late Harappan phase, you will find evidence of rice from Lothal and Rangpur. Both sites lie in Gujarat. Both Lothal and Rangpur, they are the sites of IVC from Gujarat. So sugarcane evidence also you have from Gujarat. And again, the evidence of rice also comes from Gujarat. And both these evidences will come from late Harappan phase. but rice is a food crop, sugarcane is a cash crop. There is the only difference. So these things we have to keep in mind in the context of the agricultural features of the Indus Valley. Okay? And one more thing that you can write in the context of this cotton. As we saw on that site, Sut ka Jandor. The first evidence of, we can say, and this has also been the question asked by UPSC, I think 2013 PYQ, that people of Indus Valley used to manufacture cotton. Growing cotton is different. That is a part of agriculture. And manufacturing the cotton textile is different. Because from Sut ka Jandor, a proper cotton cloth has been found. That you should note. That's why it is called Sut, no? Sut means cotton. Sut ka Jandor. Why the site has been called so? First ever evidence of a cotton manufacturing or a cotton cloth has been found from the site of Sut ka Jandor, okay, which is the oldest maritime station of the world. Okay, which is the oldest maritime station of the world. That part we have to keep in mind. Correct? Yes, from Sut ka Jandor basically towards Mesopotamia and Egypt, the foreign trade and commerce used to go. And why it is called maritime station? Ships used to pass from Sut ka Jandor. Correct? Next subheading you can give trade and commerce. Trade and commerce. Okay. First point would be people of IVC used to carry both domestic as well as foreign trade and commerce. You can note directly. People of IVC used to carry both domestic as well as foreign trade and commerce. Correct? People of IVC used to carry both the domestic as well as foreign trade and commerce. Okay? Next. Copper was procured from Khetri mines of Rajasthan. Copper was procured from Khetri mines of Rajasthan and Hazaribagh plateau of the Jharkhand. Khetri mines of Rajasthan, and even today we are using Khetri mines. Khetri, Khetri mines of Rajasthan and Hazaribagh plateau of Jharkhand. Both areas we are using today also. Okay? But copper was basically procured from Khetri mines of Rajasthan and Hazaribagh plateau of the Jharkhand. But what? People of IVC were deficient in tin. हमारे पास tin उस समय भी नहीं था, आज भी नहीं है. Because geologically, India is deficient in a tin. But people of IVC were deficient in a tin. तो फिर ये ब्रॉन्ज एज कहाँ से आ गया? कॉपर और टिन की मेहनत पॉसिबल नहीं है. टिन वॉज प्रोक्यूर्ड फ्रॉम अफगानिस्तान, दैट इज नॉर्थ अफगानिस्तान. टिन वॉज प्रोक्यूर्ड फ्रॉम नॉर्दर्न अफगानिस्तान. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, गोल्ड यूज्ड टू कम फ्रॉम कर्नाटका. KGF, वहीं से गोल्ड आता था. कोदार गोल्ड फील्ड, सिंपल. बट इंडिया को गोल्ड से कितना प्यार है पता है ना आपको? तो बिना इंपोर्ट कुछ नहीं होगा. गोल्ड यूज्ड टू कम फ्रॉम कर्नाटका बट इट वाज इम्पोर्टेड फ्रॉम ईरान. उस समय भी इंपोर्ट करना पड़ता था क्योंकि दोनों गोल्ड का फर्क पता चलता है. गोल्ड यूज्ड टू बी प्रोक्यूर्ड फ्रॉम कर्नाटका बट इट वाज इंपोर्टेड फ्रॉम ईरान व्हिच वाज आउटसाइड IVC. ठीक है. Correct? IVC people were first to produce best bronze in the world. they were not first to produce bronze. Bronze was produced first by Mesopotamia, but they were the first one to produce the best bronze in the world. इसलिए wording important है. The language and the interpretation will decide our fate in a UPSC. ठीक है? Correct? Next, however, IVC people were the first one to produce brass in the world. However, IVC people were the first one to produce the brass in the world. And what is brass? Alloy of three metals. Which? First decide 3 or 2.
3, sir.
Anyone agrees? How many of you are from science background? Others are from humanities? Science means science, engineering, and others. Non-humanity background. 12th तक तो साइंस पढ़ा ही है. Simple, basic. Copper plus tin is equal to bronze. Similarly, what is brass? हाँ, perfect. किसने बोल दिया? Yes, copper plus zinc is equal to brass. And when we say they are the first one to produce the brass in the world, that means they were the first one to have the zinc in the world. देखिए, IVC people, they were the first one to have produce the brass in the world because they were the first one to exploit the zinc in the world. They were the first one to exploit the zinc and use the zinc in the world. Okay? And the zinc mines also we find in Rajasthan. Jhalawar is a district of Rajasthan where we have the zinc mines. So India is not deficient in zinc. We have sufficient zinc even today. So that's why they were able to, Khetri mines were also there, and in Jhalawar district we have zinc mine also. So obviously the alloy was possible and they went for a brass. Okay? So the people of IVC were the only one who knew all major metals. They knew copper, they knew tin, they knew zinc, they knew bronze, they knew brass, they knew gold, they knew silver. 7 metals they knew. Only metal they did not know is iron. Okay? लोहा पता नहीं था क्योंकि iron age had not started anywhere in the world. Iron was to be invented as of now with respect to anywhere in the world. Okay? So that you should keep in mind. Odd man out. Iron is the only metal they did not know. Other metals they knew. The Mesopotamia and Egypt they did not know brass. Okay? क्योंकि zinc क्या होता है उनको पता ही नहीं था. Only from us they used to go. They came to know what is brass when it was exported. So that is the case. Next. Foreign trade and commerce was conducted both from overland route as well as ocean route. Foreign trade and commerce was conducted both from overland route and ocean route. Okay? Correct? And जब ocean route से conduct होगा तो कैसे होगा? बिना ships के possible है? So who are the first one to build the ships in the world? So that is a science and technology also. And science and technology is a art and culture also. Next. Since the ships were used for oceanic trade and commerce, since the ships were used for the oceanic trade and commerce, the people of IVC were the first one to build and use the ships in the world. Okay? since the ships were used for the oceanic trade and commerce, the people of IBC were the first one to build and use the ships in the world. Because remains of the ships of the IBC, because the remains of the ships of the IBC have been found on a Egypt and Mesopotamia coast. ठीक है, लेकिन उनके शिप्स के कोई भी रिमेन्स हमारे कोस्ट पे नहीं मिलते आपको. हमारे शिप्स अपने कोस्ट पे भी मिलते हैं, लोथल, धोलावीरा, देवर शिप बिल्डिंग सेंटर्स, एंड उनके यहाँ पे भी हमारे शिप्स मिलते हैं. इससे पता चलता है कि उन लोगों को शिप बिल्डिंग नहीं आता था, अगर आया तो बाद में हमसे ही सीखा था. ये चीज़ थी. हिस्ट्री ऐसे रिकंस्ट्रक्ट की जाती है. ओके, so they were the first one to build and use the ships in the world, because the remains of our ships have been found on the coast of Mesopotamia and Egypt. So shipbuilding itself is the art. Shipbuilding itself is the culture. Shipbuilding is the science and technology also. But connected with this, there are many evidences of the SNT. How? Who is a discoverer of the gravity? Wrong. IBC people. शिप्स को जाने के लिए हाई टाइड और लो टाइड का नॉलेज चाहिए कि नहीं? आप तो इंजीनियरिंग बैकग्राउंड के, आपको तुरंत सारे आंसर्स आने चाहिए. इंजीनियरिंग पीपल हैव अ क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग. Unless and until there is no knowledge of a high tide and low tide, is it possible to just have a ship and have a kind of, we can say, the path for a ship which can be decided in the ocean? Not possible. And it's a very simple and basic knowledge that high tide, low tide or neap tide, it is dependent upon the gravitational force of whom? Huh? Obviously moon. Sun's gravitational force is maximum 5%. 95% gravitational forces of a moon because of distance. So unless and until they knew regarding, we can say, high tide, low tide and neap tide, they cannot basically have the navigation through ships. And they cannot even go for having the, we can say, the trade and commerce with the ships, because once you are carrying a trade and commerce, ship would be laden with the goods. उसका weight कितना बढ़ जाएगा, कुछ उल्टा फुल्टा हो गया, डूब जाएगा ship. But there is not a single evidence that the ship was sunken, कि भाई उनका ship कहाँ से अरेबियन से निकाल के evidence मिल गया. No. So they knew basically the high tide, low tide and the neap tide. That means they knew the gravitation. Okay, Newton is a rediscoverer of the gravity. This point we have to keep in mind. And again, so what? For wooden ship also navigation is required, na? No, the remains of the ships, the very ship, we can say, structures which are like a size of this room, they have been found. Metal ships were built only in a Gupta period. India did not build. That means again we were the first one to build the metal ships. No other country in the world was able to build the metal ships. But whatever remains we found as a part of, we can say, the evidence of the IBC, they are all the wooden ships. That is clear. Again, not just based on high tide, neap tide or low tide, ships are navigated. For that you require the knowledge of seasonal reversal of the winds, which we call as the monsoon. ITCZ. I hope geography is done for you. So ITCZ क्या है मुझे बताने की ज़रूरत नहीं. So that was also possible for them, because Arabian Sea is more and less free from cyclones. Climatology सबने पढ़ा है. Salinity of the Arabian Sea is much more than the Bay of Bengal. Odisha unfortunately faces tremendous, we can say, the frequency of the cyclones compared to, we can say, the western coast. And due to disaster management now the death toll has been reduced. That is fortunate for us. That is our advancement. But still, unfortunately, Odisha faces 1999 super cyclone and all these things. All of you must be knowing. So Arabian Sea is basically relatively free because of, we can say, the kind of increased aridity which came after the end of IBC. And salinity is also tremendously higher. And in fact, for navigation, you require a higher salinity. And that's why almost, if you see the Indian history, maximum trade and commerce was always carried with the Western world. Trade and commerce with the Eastern world was less. Why? There are no countries in the East. Still throughout the history, trade and commerce with the East was restricted. Why? Because of the cyclones and the low salinity of the Bay of Bengal. Because so many of the, we can say, the Deccan rivers, and even the rivers like Ganga, they basically have the freshwater supply with respect to Bay of Bengal. That's why the salinity is less. For Deccan, basically, rivers are short because Western Ghat is very close, and that's why Deccan rivers don't form a delta also. You must have studied that. Eastern rivers, they will always form a delta. So these are reasons, and that's why basically the navigation was easily possible. Natural disasters are more and less absent. Again, the Arabian Sea witnesses very less tsunamis, except the example of Dwarka that we have, that after Mahabharata, Dwarka went underwater. So reason was tsunami. That is being established now with different research. We don't need to go into that. But otherwise, tsunami is more frequent towards eastern side. So that is also reason that trade and commerce will be easy from disaster perspective also. So unless and until you have that knowledge, seasonal reversal of the wind, that is monsoon, and this is very established. Aryans knew the monsoon. Rigveda और later Vedic text है ना, उसमें monsoon के mechanism mention है. So that is the case. So before Aryans or Vedic people of IVC were there, and indirectly basically we get evidences from shipbuilding and oceanic trade and commerce that unless and until you are foolproof with S and T, you cannot have all the things. And if you want more evidence, then one more evidence is there. Earliest astronomical observatories you find from Dholavira. Just like earliest hydraulic engineering and water management is found from Dholavira, for which UPSC has asked a question. Earliest astronomical observatories of the world, they have been found from Dholavira, because Dholavira is located exactly on that imaginary line which we call as a Tropic of Cancer. And because of that, at least 300 days of a clear sky is there. Even in night, तारे वैसे भी रात में करेंगे, ठीक है, दिन में कोई तारे देख नहीं सकता है. So for astronomical observation, whatever clarity is required, that was available in Dholavira. In Indus Valley sites other than Dholavira also, there is no astronomical observatory. Dholavira is the only site. The reason is that because it was exactly on Tropic of Cancer, and that's why Dholavira was a shipbuilding center. क्योंकि उस समय Arabian Sea पास में था, मैंने बताया, तो आराम से you can go for a navigation. So there are so many explanations that we have. So S&T also, India was ahead of all the countries at that time, and IVC are the harbingers and the pioneers of the science and technology. Okay? So this is the case. So what I mentioned, what we wrote, the remains of the ships have been found there, na? Okay. Okay. So that is the case. And last point in trade and commerce that we have to write. This foreign trade and commerce was profitable to the people of Indus Valley because only limited items of import have been found. Because only the limited items of imports have been found. In IVC area. Okay? Only limited items of imports have been found from the IVC area, but a huge quantity of items exported by IVC, but a huge quantity of the items exported by the IVC have been found in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Okay? Have been found in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Correct? Next point. Again, money economy was absent. Money economy was absent in IVC. And barter system was prevalent. Money economy was absent in IVC, and barter system, BARTER, barter system was prevalent. Okay. Next one. Seals used in IVC were earlier considered as the coins. seals used in IBC were earlier considered as coins. Correct? But now it has been established clearly that they were used for stamping and identity purpose. Okay? Seals of the IBC, they were earlier considered as coins, but now it has been established clearly that they were used for stamping and identity purpose. Okay? So that is about the economy, trade and commerce of the IBC. Now we have to come towards the end of the IBC. फिर ये इतना flourishing civilization end कैसे हुआ? Before the end, that is the cause which led to the decline of IBC. Just I will tell about the script which is undeciphered. So this script which is undeciphered, that means we have the script in front of us, but we are not able to read it properly with a meaningful explanation or a logical thinking. But if you see the script of the IBC is not alphabetic. It is not made of, we can say, alphabets and letters. Okay? IBC script is called as a pictographic. It is also called as a logographic. It is a symbolic script. And there is a pattern to write the script. The first line of a IBC script is written from right to left. Okay? Second line is written from left to right. Third line would be right to left. Fourth line would be left to right. And the pattern will continue. This is called zigzag pattern, and there is a technical term, Bostro-Fedon method. This type of writing is called as a Bostro-Fedon method. Only that thing we have to keep in mind. Other than that, nothing is known to us with respect to script. So we can write that. Heading would be script of the IBC. First one. IBC script remains undeciphered or undeciphered as yet. IBC script remains undeciphered or undeciphered as yet. Okay? Full stop, same line. The IBC script is not alphabetic. Consisting of any letters or characters. IBC script is not alphabetic, consisting of any letters or characters. Okay? Next. Rather, IBC script is pictographic and symbolic. Rather, IBC script is pictographic and symbolic. Okay? Next. It is also called logographic. Because each symbol or a picture conveys one और मल्टीपल मीनिंग्स. एक सिंबल एक मीनिंग भी बता सकता है आपको, या एक ही सिंबल के अलग अलग मीनिंग्स भी हो सकते हैं. इट इज कॉल्ड लोगोग्राफिक बिकॉज ईच पिक्चर और सिंबल कन्वेज वन मीनिंग और इट मे कन्वे मल्टीपल मीनिंग्स ऑल्सो. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, द ओनली थिंग कंसिस्टेंट विद द स्क्रिप्ट इज the writing pattern. Only thing consistent with the script is a writing pattern. Known as Bostrofedon method, known as Bostrofedon method. ठीक है. Next, in this method, first line is written from right to left. In this method, basically, the first line is written from right to left. Whereas second line is written from left to right. And pattern continues. And pattern continues. ठीक है? Clear? Last would be decline or end of the IVC. Okay, so ultimately by 1500 BC or by 1300 BC, whatever may be the case, after 2000 years of existence, IVC came to an end. And the earliest explanation about the end of IVC was given by one British scholar, and he was at that time the Director General of Archaeological Survey of India. Okay, and he was a Director General at a time when India was gaining the independence and unfortunately witnessing partition and Pakistan. So already, as we know, that Pakistan was created as a part of, we can say, the religious division. So now again, to divide the India upon the other aspects, this Mortimer Wheeler, he now started distorting the history also. Mortimer Wheeler, basically, he started distorting the history also. How? Now he tried to create a Aryan versus Dravidian debate, that North India is Aryan. The Aryan, the superior race, the white race, fair and lovely race, the race to which the British themselves belong. And this was a superior race. That's why we ruled you for 200 years. That is what he wanted to tell. Okay? अभी भारत छोड़ना पड़ रहा था ना उनको. Quit India movement was going upon. Subhash Chandra Bose and his Indian National Army, they had broken the back of the British. Second World War also had broken the back of the British Empire. So अभी कुछ तो भागना तो पड़ेगा ही. पर भागते भागते भी हम कितने सही थे, हम कितने अच्छे थे, कितने सुपीरियर थे, ये बताना पड़ेगा. So So this so-called, we can say, the distortion, the racial division was brought between North and South. So he was trying to say, the people of IVC, they are Dravidians and they were peace-loving people, which is fact. People of IVC, they were very peaceful. You have all kinds of evidences because as we saw, we have a script where we are not able to decipher, correct? So whatever we have studied in today's class, how we have studied that? Based on archaeological evidences. So we have all kinds of evidences, but we have the most limited evidences, or we have the minimum evidences of the weapons. Okay? So people of IVC, they were using the weapons and ammunition at a least of the level. Because these were the peace-loving people, the DNA of the Indian people, that is more or less live and let live. They might have the fear of attack by Mesopotamians or Egyptians, and that's why there was a fortification and all these things. But have we seen in Indian history that India has gone on to invade any country? No. This is the case. So normally what happens when you have so much money and profit, what do? You will first raise the army and invade the, we can say, other country or other area. But these people, they use the money not for a destructive purpose. They use the money for constructive purpose, for building the beautiful cities. That is what the Indian mindset is. That is what the Indian culture is. So we have the least of the weapons. So he wanted to show that these people of IVC who were peace loving, which was a very good thing, and which was a fact also, but they did not have the fighting skills. And that is also true. If you come to Gujarat, Rajasthan, people are very peace loving, just like in Odisha. But people of Odisha, they have resisted Ashoka. We have the evidence. But in Gujarat, Rajasthan, basically people they have the business skill. They cannot fight. In army also today, people you can find people from Odisha, Assam, and other parts. But Gujarat and Rajasthan, you will find the least people in the army. Because their DNA is about, we can say, business, trade and commerce and all these things. So he was trying to say these people, they did not have the fighting skills. And that's why they did not have the weapons, they did not have the fighting skills. And the fair and lovely race came from outside India. This race basically was having the superior military skills. This race introduced horse-driven chariots. This race came with, we can say, bronze and copper weapons, and which is an established fact. And UPSC has asked the question in 2017. The true horse was introduced in India by Aryans. Horse-driven chariots were introduced by Aryans. Okay? And the weapons made of bronze and copper, swords, javelins, okay? The kind of, we can say, the bows and arrows, everything was introduced by Aryans. And Aryans, they have the martial spirits. Rig Veda is full of battles. Khun kharaba karna, ye Rig Veda se hum dekh sakte. Despite the fact, Rig Veda is the oldest religious text in the world. But khun kharaba bhi bhara hua hai. Battles and battles, so many battles are there. Most famous battle is Battle of Dasharajan, jo hum kal dekhenge. So because of that, definitely Aryan was a race which had a martial spirit, which had a skills of, we can say, fighting, and they had a warrior spirit also. So he was trying to show that these people came and they basically annihilated the so-called peace-loving people of Indus Valley who were not able to offer any kind of resistance. And he was absolutely trying to, we can say, put up the things in a very fake manner, which were more or less accepted as a true for 20 years. 1973 तक इस theory को accept किया था पूरे world ने. And later on, by 1973, when other scientific evidence started coming up, when DNA analysis, biotechnology, environmental science started to be used for history, his own falsified view, his own lie was exposed. And by 1973, he himself had to accept कि 20 साल पहले जो मैंने theory दी थी वो झूठ थी. So he himself was forced to accept his theory was wrong, and that's why the Aryan invasion theory has been discarded now. Then along with this theory, there were many other explanations which came, like more or less the natural disasters, the geological changes, the tectonic shifts, the earthquakes associated with that, the tsunamis due to Dwarka and all these things. Everything was explained that these were responsible for destruction of the IVC. But practically, we don't find such a kind of evidences which will just destroy the whole IVC. A part of our IVC might get destroyed by earthquake. Today also we have earthquakes came to name. And why this so-called river and water was lost? Climate change. Okay? So most accepted basically theory. This is also a theory, but which has been accepted as of now until and unless future changes come. The answer to the end of IVC is climate change. And now the IIT Kharagpur, IIT Bombay, and IIT Gandhinagar, along with the Deccan Archaeological Institute in Pune, they have conducted studies, and then this theory has been brought. And as per the theory, we get the scientific evidences that around 1500 BC, the climate started changing. The very IVC which was having a higher rainfall, as we saw in Pashupati Mahadeva seal, the rainfall started receding. Actually, once the mature phase came to an end, that means when the late Harappan phase started, 700-year long drought started, which has been now established scientifically. And due to how that drought came, due to climate change, temperatures started increasing, aridity became much more, humidity was suck, cloud formation was not possible, and if there is no cloud formation, rainfall cannot be possible. And then the deforestation was witnessed, soil erosion was witnessed, and along with that, the tectonic shift was also witnessed. So Indus changed the course. As I mentioned, in those times, Saraswati used to flow in Ran of Kutch, but Saraswati lost the water. Mahabharata, Bhagavad Puran, you have the we can say the written record. Saraswati basically it went under the earth. Jamin ke niche chali gayi matlab that's a geological change that has been witnessed scientifically, if you have to prove the paleobotanical evidence, as we say. Okay, and again by this evidence only it has been basically proved. When we say Triveni Sangam, abhi kumbh ho gaya na. What is Triveni Sangam? Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati. Saraswati again re-emerges in Prayagraj. Kaise? Jo Saraswati basically from Himalayas it goes towards Gujarat. How it can come towards UP? It has been proved now. It changed the course. The underwater basically Saraswati still flows. One current flows of Saraswati and it comes towards Prayagraj. It has been proved now geologically. And that's why there is a Triveni Sangam. So that Saraswati lost the water. From where? After we can say coming from down the Himalayas, that is after Shivaliks basically, once it entered Haryana, then Rajasthan and Gujarat, it lost the water. And Indus basically it used to flow in Gujarat. Now Indus is flowing from Karachi. Indus basically, now Karachi is located on the banks of river Indus. So Indus has shifted its course in this 5,000 years by 200 kilometers. So today also geological changes have been witnessed in Indus. So in those times Indus used to be the part of Gujarat, now it is a part of Pakistan. And that is the reason that you will see the water scarcity was also witnessed. Okay? And that water loss affected agriculture. And once your agriculture is gone, then your revenue surplus is gone. You cannot have a raw material. If you don't have a raw material, manufacturing is not possible. If manufacturing is gone, trade and commerce is gone. Okay? And if you don't get profits from the trade and commerce, you cannot run your administration. If you don't get revenue from agriculture, you cannot maintain your cities. And there are evidences that at the end of IVC, the very famed underground drainage system of the IVC was gone. And the kind of, we can say, the negative feature for which India is so infamous, open drainage, जिसके लिए हम जाने जाते हैं, वो IVC के एंड में ही आना शुरू हो गया था. Because there was no money. There was no money to maintain the cities. City build करना जितना difficult है, just like having a bungalow is, we can say, not a mean thing. But after purchasing the bungalow, maintaining that bungalow for a long time or for lifelong, that is also a Herculean task. Same is the case. Okay? City build करना ही difficult था, लेकिन उस समय पैसा था cities के after cities build किए थे. But अभी in late Harappan phase, you don't have money because agriculture is gone due to climate change. And since agriculture is gone, then what is the case? Due to lack of revenue, you cannot maintain your hygiene and sanitation. There is no cleanliness, for which the IVC was world famous. Garbage, the open drainage became the rule, or it became the scene. And for long 2000 years, people of IVC, due to their hygiene and sanitation, they had not been exposed to any kind of communicable diseases. कभी कभी ज़्यादा हाइजीनिक रहना भी महंगा पड़ता है, ये इन लोगों से सीखना पड़ता है. ऐसे बोलते हैं ना, कभी कभी मिट्टी में गंदगी में खेलो, बचपन में बोला जाता है. उसका रीज़न ये है that body develops a kind of immunity. So people of IVC, they were famous extremely for their health and hygiene, sanitation and all these things. Okay? But now everything collapsed. And they did not know the communicable disease. And now due to open drainage and garbage, and due to lack of maintenance, okay, or civic services, they were exposed to the communicable disease, which are very common today, like diarrhea and cholera. Very common and curable. But that became like a corona, pandemic. So the climate change brought a pandemic in the form of like a corona. And these so-called communicable diseases, they also led to en masse, we can say, death as far as IVC is concerned. There are heaps of bones in Mohenjo-daro. Mohenjo-daro का मतलब क्या है? Mohenjo-daro is a Sindhi word, the mound of a dead. ठीक है? जहाँ पे कंकालों का ढेर लगता है, ढेर. because heaps of bones have been found from Mohenjo-daro, and these hip bones are nothing from but from the so-called deaths which were witnessed in pandemic, which was due to climate change. So climate change is a broader reason under which we can say all other reasons will be subsumed that will lead to the end of Indus Valley civilization. Okay, and even though this so-called Aryan invasion theory has been discarded, still it is also the same climate change which was going to bring a new fair and lovely race to India in the form of Aryans. Okay, so Aryan invasion is not there, but Aryan migration is there. And if now due to COVID, census has not been conducted. It should have been conducted, but if you go back 2011 census, 73% India is Aryan, 20% is Dravidian, and rest are the Chotanagpur Plateau people, including the some we can say communities of Odisha. They will belong to Proto-Australoid race, and Assam and the Northeast will belong to Mongoloid race. The four major races as far as the human geography of India is concerned. अगर आपने पढ़ा होगा तो. So this is the case. So majority of India is now Aryan. So north of Narmada you have Aryans, south of Narmada Dravidians. Where transition phase will come in Maharashtra, and exactly south of Maharashtra you have pure Dravidian population. So Aryan invasion theory is gone, but this very climate change was going to bring one new race from Central Asia known as the Aryan race. And the very climate change, how it became the reason for their advent in India or migration, that we have to see tomorrow. Okay? So this is the end of IVC. Climate change इतना ही ध्यान में रखना है, एक्सप्लेनेशन भी कोई आपको पूछने वाला नहीं है जो मैंने बताया. क्लियर? एंजॉयड? ओके, चलिए, थैंक यू.